What is up, everybody? Tonight, we have a very special guest. Father Joseph will be joining the live again. This is Father Joseph's second time joining our stream. The first time he came on, and it was kind of a barrage of topics. We talked about baptism. We talked about a lot of different things. Tonight, though, Father Joseph is specifically here to walk us through the history of the split between true Orthodoxy and world Orthodoxy. Now, I know that a lot of you guys in the comments watching right now are going to be from the true Orthodoxy camp, and a lot of you are going to be from the world Orthodoxy, or you would call yourself Eastern Orthodoxy camp. All are welcome. But if you are from Eastern Orthodoxy, or as Father Joseph will call it, world Orthodoxy, I would love to have you come up backstage. You can hit the link to join. It is right there in the pinned comment. And I'm going to keep you backstage for a while until it is time. And I would love for you to be able to ask questions to Father Joseph. And you guys can even debate a little bit. I don't mind that at all. All super chats will be read. If you have a question for Father Joseph, if you have an argument that you want to put forward to him, all super chats will be on the screen and will be read. So here with me right now, Father Joseph, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, John. It's good to be here. The first Holy Father, Jesus Christ, God, have mercy on us and save us. Amen. Sorry, I went from my stream to run downstairs to grab some food real quick, and I'm back. So
yeah, you were streaming like a couple hours ago, right?
Actually, up until about 20 minutes ago.
Okay, right on. You've been at this for a while.
Yeah, you could say that. So definitely I can see how that would be yeah, okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Very good. Well, I'm glad you're here, and I'm excited to get into this topic. This is a topic that I am curious about. So I want to know the history of the split, the divide between true Orthodoxy and world Orthodoxy, and I want to know the reasons for it, and I want to know is it something to where, you know, true Orthodox and Eastern Orthodox can be ecumenical or not? Are they simply in error, or are they anathema? And if so, whatever the answer is, and I'm excited to hear you go through this. What is the case that you have to bring? What are the evidences, the proofs? And then I'm hoping that we get a couple Eastern Orthodox guys up backstage, or maybe we get some super chats to challenge you, and you can answer some of those questions. So anyway, I'm gonna turn it over to you and let you kind of guide us through this conversation. How did it all start?
Sure. The main date that most true Orthodox use to start it, and it's a little tricky because remember, Orthodoxy is a global religion. The Orthodox Church has existed for 2,000 years, and it is worldwide. And so the main introduction that most people say with true Orthodoxy, with the innovation in Orthodoxy is in 1920, the Patriarchate of Constantinople issued a statement called "Unto the Churches of Christ Everywhere." Now, at that time, it's important to remember that Constantinople was under a lot of pressure because it was kind of the end of the Ottoman Empire. Like, that was the beginning of the official end of like the Islamic Empire. And so the British had moved in, and they were pushing for more concrete control in the region. And so one of the things that they did was they kind of cozied up to the Patriarchate of Constantinople. They cozied up to other Orthodox hierarchies, etc. This was the Anglicans, and they managed to successfully get the Patriarchate of Constantinople to issue a statement called "Unto the Churches of Christ Everywhere," which suggested that Orthodox and Anglican students should do common seminaries, should use a common calendar, should use things that were outside the pale of what was normal in Orthodoxy. But that was a policy recommendation. What ended up happening around that time, because as you know, 1920 is a pretty pivotal year. That was the end of World War I. And in Russia, which was the bulwark of Orthodoxy, and even today, 70% of the Orthodox world is in Russia, or what was the Russian Empire. So that's also important to remember. the Soviets took over. And so they began persecuting the church because they were militant atheists. So at the same time that Constantinople was undergoing this pressure, Russia was seeing catastrophic upheaval from violent militant atheists. And so the church in Russia was immediately persecuted. The communists first tried to create a false church called the Living Church, where they tried to create a schism in the church that was kind of with modernists running it. And then they used that to try to take the properties, for example, of Russian properties that were abroad. Like Russia had like the holdings of the cathedrals in the United States, for example. Those were actually owned by the Russian state and the Russian church, which operated in union. These became the subject of intense lawsuits after the Soviets took over, like the Khodrovsky cases. In Greece, what we see is by 1924, we see the Venizelos government. This is all these governments are falling apart. Like Greece was previous to this, remember, it was under the Ottoman Empire, so it had just become independent. And so now it was building on its own. With the reforms of the Venezuelan government, etc., they installed a new, they elected a new Archbishop of Athens, which is the top office in Greece and had been for about 100 years. The apostolic succession goes all the way back to St. Dionysius, a disciple of St. Paul. So the whole point is they elect a new Archbishop of Athens who had previously warned that if they go on the new calendar as Constantinople recommended, they would be viewed as schismatic in the eyes of the others. So he immediately implements the calendar for some reason. But that actually causes chaos. Immediately, Mount Athos, which is the monastic center of Orthodoxy, starts sending dozens of monastics down to the mainland of Greece to celebrate communion for the faithful, because they don't want to attend the churches of the new calendarists because they view them as akin to papists, because they've switched over to the papal calendar. And this is something that they like to say, like they didn't know about ecumenism back then. No, back then they just said, we don't want to be Franks. We don't want to be Latins. So the point is, they understood something was wrong. But and as this is happening, and the Athonite monks are trying to help the people survive, the state is starting to persecute them because the new calendarist hierarchy is ordering the police to attack these people and break up their services and take them down, which is common in church history. You see this happen all the time. When heretics take the state, they begin to persecute the Orthodox. Okay, so now you have the Orthodox in Russia and Greece being persecuted. This is, remember, about 75% of the Orthodox world by itself. So most of the Orthodox world, unfortunately, this horrible scene also plays out in Romania, which, again, the Orthodox are persecuted, whole villages are arrested, people by the thousand, and again, an underground resistance forms, and this is to preserve Orthodoxy, so on and so forth. So all of these things are happening independently of each other, but everyone's trying to preserve the faith. The Living Church in Russia, which is the Soviet church, eventually the Soviets realize that's not working, so they stop supporting it as much, and they just keep going for open persecution. So they end up killing around 27 million Orthodox Christians and hierarchies. That, like, the martyrdoms are insane numbers at this point. And there's martyrdoms in Greece, there's martyrdoms in Romania, there's martyrdoms in all of these countries, and this continues spreading. Now, while this is happening, in the 1940s, as you know, World War II happened. And so the Soviets were having a hard time holding their grip on the Russian people. There was a lot of animosity that had developed over, the mass murdering people and horrible treatment of people, etc. And so eventually the Soviets were like, we need to find a way to get the Orthodox on our side somehow. And so they literally created, in 1943, to create popular support for the war, they got together a couple of bishops that were already had declared themselves loyal to the Soviets, which wasn't the majority of them. The majority of them were being persecuted and hiding, but they managed to get these guys who would do it, led by Sergius Stragodorsky, who was one of the original Living Church members. And they were like, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make you patriarch. If there's going to be a patriarch, we're going to control him, so on and so forth. Now, I want you to keep in mind that the office of patriarchate was still fairly new. Like when Saint Tikhon, who was martyred by the Soviets in 1920, was elected, he was the first Russian patriarch in 300 years. So the concept of a patriarch in Russia and living modern day Russia was actually new when it happened to Saint Tikhon. And then he was martyred, and then there was no patriarch. So that would have been the status quo for like 400 years, except that the state then was Orthodox and didn't hate people and want to kill them. So this Soviet patriarch was created out of Sergius, and so from there, because Orthodoxy had been, quite frankly, battered by all the wars in all the major territories in which Orthodox had been, and we'd seen the collapse of the Orthodox Empire through the Tsar. I hate to say this, all the funding dried up because the Tsar was sending lots of money to all of these churches, and those vacuums were filled by things like American state services, so on and so forth, the KGB. So what you were dealing with by the time, outside of these true Orthodox bodies that were being persecuted all over the place, what you were dealing with at the episcopal hierarchical level was basically a skin-suited organization. And so these were not typical monastics, etc. Often they were, in fact, especially with the Soviets, they were often KGB agents. And so these people had no business, leading a choir, let alone leading a church. So the point is that was kind of where these people kind of came in, and they were these government apparatchiks. They started to realize that they had limited credibility versus the Orthodox in Greece. Like the true Orthodox who had now gotten a hierarchy and now had built it out. The true Orthodox in Russia, who had catacomb and underground hierarchies, had hierarchy in Romania and Bulgaria and in other places, they were still building up. So what ends up happening is in around 1960, because you now had between the official kind of Orthodox churches that were there, like let's say in America we'll use, or in Europe, you had churches that were legitimately connected to the original hierarchies that were still continuing and practicing that day. You had new people under new hierarchies, which were running under these state organizations. And then you had just whack jobs and crazies who really popped up everywhere, and they were encouraged by the Anglicans. And that's a whole other story, which I'm not even going to get into. But the whole point is that in the end, the true Orthodox bodies and the world Orthodox bodies all over the place, because they were now in other countries as well. There were true Orthodox Greeks who sent people to America to serve the parishes in Russia. This was a thing that happened. And so in 1960, the official organizations, as well as you could name them, including the Soviet Moscow Patriarchate and the New Calendar Greece, they kind of got together in America and created something called the Standing Conference of Canonical Orthodox Bishops. Before this 1960, this creation of this terminology, the term canonical Orthodox was meaningless. It didn't exist. It's a marketing term, because what they realized in that 1960 meeting, and they were trying to replicate it in other countries that were not Orthodox as well, is that they had to make themselves look official somehow. Since they didn't have the arm of state power and they weren't respected, so they kind of created this veneer of officiality, and that's what SCOBA was. And they tried to say that if you're not in SCOBA, you're not Orthodox. So that was when that started in 1960. And so that actually extends all the way to today, because eventually people started using SCOBA as a slur. Like it began, people started making fun of it. So they renamed it in 2010. So it's now called the Assembly of Canonical Orthodox Bishops. It's all marketing that was created here in the United States to take these state apparatus hierarchies and say that they're official. Now, granted, in the meantime, they have made some official moves, and it's been a battle back and forth. Like, for example, in Russia, because they've referred to the Patriarchate as the last arm of the Soviet government, it so happens that Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin happens to be nostalgic for the old days of the KGB. And it's just so happens that Patriarch Kirill, formerly Metropolitan Kirill, was KGB agent Mikhailov before the fall of communism, where he then made smart on some really good investments notably alcohol, tobacco, etc., which earned him the name of the Tobacco Metropolitan because he became an actual billionaire off his investments, off the vices of the Russian people. But he also was old KGB, so Vladimir Vladimirovich, and him got along great. What this meant was that true Orthodox, then descendants of true Orthodox, etc., that had their own churches, would have them taken away. To give you an idea, I lived in Russia between 2004 and 2006. And I attended a parish I would attend the cathedral of the Russian Orthodox Autonomous Church under the late Metropolitan Valentin of Vladimir and Sustal of blessed memory. Beautiful church, hundreds of believers. It was wonderful, joyous, like to see these people surviving past communism and still just, praying like Orthodox, super happy. Everything was beautiful. That church is gone now. You see, I left in 2006. I was there for a couple of years, but in 2009, the Patriarchate petitioned the Russian government to take away the cathedrals being maintained by non-patriarchal churches. And so they literally seized it. Now, I would be mad if they seized it and they made it a Moscow Patriarchate church. I would be mad, but at least they're making it a church. Instead, they just turned it into a tourist destination. They closed it. It now just has office hours where you pay to look around at all the icons and leave. They turned it into a museum, which is what the Soviets used to do. The Soviets used to turn churches into museums. Again, with the new calendarists in Greece, very chaotic. There are sectors in the Greek government which have talked about making the True Orthodox of Greece the official church of Greece. Because in 2003, the new calendarists, who had gotten tired of getting shamed everywhere, including in the courts, because in 1982, the courts of Greece finally said, no, the True Orthodox are actual Orthodox Christians. You don't have a right to take away their rights. Because in Greece, which is historically an Orthodox country, clergy get things like salaries and health benefits. So the True Orthodox were applying for things like that. And up to the 70s, we're not getting it. And then in 1982, started getting those benefits because they proved that they were Orthodox Christians. There was no doubt. So in 2003, the New Calendarist Church of Greece managed to sneak a provision in the Constitution, which seemed innocent at the time. Which, remember, I told you that they kind of had that union, the communion with these various state apparatus, so on and so forth. They changed the Greek constitution to include the only recognized church of Greece is the one in communion with the Patriarchate of Constantinople. And so by doing that, that's a legal loophole that allowed them to say at that point, right after that was promulgated, this created a controversy among the True Orthodox because they began to say the only people that can legally be named the Orthodox Church of Greece are the new calendarists. This is all within living memory. And so some True Orthodox were like, we're not changing our name. We are historically the Church of Greece. Yeah, but that was before the Constitution changed, and the new calendarists started suing to take their buildings. So the point is, when people ask me, and I'm knowing all this, I've seen churches literally taken away. I've seen people literally persecuted and thrown in jail. I've seen catacomb bishops talk to me about their sufferings in the Soviet Union. And I have random people on Twitter go, you guys are just having some really negative opinions. Like, it's offensive. People died over this and people suffered over this. And these people act like because they read about Orthodoxy on the internet, or I should say the Orthodoxy brand, that they know everything. So I'm grateful to God. In the past 3 years, I've been using the platform that I have and the platform that God gave me ultimately to reach out to more people. That became much more intense over the past month or so. I explained why in the previous stream on my own thing. But so I'm here to talk about the True Orthodox Church, the Orthodox Church, because I see them as one and the same. And I see World Orthodox, the brand, as ecumenists, as Sergianists, and as worldly people who are only interested in buildings and care about formal unity, but don't care about unity in the faith, which is the Orthodox criteria.
So can you lay out for us you mentioned obviously calendar is one of them. Ecumenism is another. What are the biggest differentiators for someone like me? Okay, so a Protestant. Mm-hmm. What are the biggest differentiators between true Orthodoxy and world Orthodoxy? And then I have a follow-up question about regarding like state control. So if you wouldn't mind, answer that one, and then I have a follow-up about state control.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. You mentioned two things that we consider heresy, which is ecumenism and Sergianism. Modernism is another one. But
Okay.
if you look at it, let's say a very traditional looking World Orthodox church, let's say like an Ephraimite monastery in Arizona, and you look at one of our churches, if you as a Protestant observer go in, you will probably see functionally no difference whatsoever between these two churches.
Right.
The differences come as the modernism increases. Like the biggest thing you'll notice is that you almost never find pews in a true Orthodox church, because that's a real Western thing. You will find them occasionally, but it's not common. But outside of that, like the iconostas is basically going to be the same. Most of the icons are going to look the same. The music's going to be the same. Like you have to be listening kind of carefully, like who's being commemorated as the leader or the metropolitan, the patriarch, etc. But outside of that, the practices are going to be somewhat pretty much the same. You will find in World Orthodox churches, they tend more often towards modernistic practices. True Orthodox tend towards traditional translations closer to the KJV. But, you know, a lot, whether World Orthodox or True Orthodox, a lot of them won't even be in English. So, you know, that the point is that's, those I would say are probably the biggest thing there. It's hard to notice when you're talking. It's so subtle. And this is not actually anything new either. I think I mentioned this in my previous conversation with you, that if you go to like the Arian Baptistry in Torcello, it's right next to the Orthodox one. And they look identical, even though they're two different churches under, you know, an Orthodox and a heretical church. So, so I hope that answers that question.
Yeah. Yeah. So then getting into the heretical differences, okay, not so much the cosmetic as you mentioned, but the more the heretical differences. Can you break down the calendar disagreement? You briefly touched on it, but could you break that down in a little more detail and why? Because like, again, if I'm a Protestant and I'm looking at this, I'm saying, oh, calendar, you know, what's the big deal? Calendar. So break that down. Why is that heretical and how did that come about?
I'll tell you. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because as a Protestant, believe it or not, you are partially involved. And what I mean by that is, take, for example, Washington's birthday. Washington's birthday in the U.S. is on the old calendar because at the time he was born, England was on the old calendar, and many Protestant countries were also on the old calendar. The reason why is because everybody was on the old calendar until Pope Gregory the 16th in 1582 decided that for reasons of accuracy or because he was an evil pagan. The point is the reasons are secondary to the fact that he did take away 13 days from the calendar. And originally the Orthodox were like, you can't change the calendar because canonically there's rules about what the calendar governs in terms of the festival cycle. You can't change it. We reject that altogether. And they rejected it repeatedly. And Protestant countries had no reason to really accept the Roman calendar at that point. They were like, you know, remember when the Pope changed the calendar in 1582, the Reformation was only around 60 years old. So they were like, that's fresh in their minds. Like the Pope is changing the calendar. We're not following this. So believe it or not, Protestants didn't really adopt the new calendar until probably the 17th and 18th centuries and later because of commerce. Because they were doing business with so many papist countries and had to keep their tracking notices in order for financial reasons, Protestants switched over. But in fact, even in Anglicanism, they refer to the old calendar of Christmas as Old Christmas. So believe it or not, it is Protestants were involved in the calendar issue. But the point is, by the time the change was made in 1920, was proposed in 1920 and then made in 1923 and 24. Most of the Orthodox world didn't go with it, the overwhelming majority. And everyone understood that the calendar had a lot of legal bases, a lot of statements, patriarchal statements, synodical statements saying we're not changing to the Roman calendar. We're not going to do that. It violates the Paschalion, and which is the table for calculation of Pascha or the resurrection of our Lord. So we're not changing it. And that was the universal Orthodox position all the way till 1924.
Okay. Now, why would a world Orthodox, why would they say that is not heretical? Why would they say that is not a development of doctrine or practice? If you could steel man them, I'm sure you've had plenty of discussions with them. What would their response to that be?
Oh, their responses fall into exactly two different ones. The first one is astronomical accuracy. And their arguments are that the Gregorian calendar is formally more accurate than the Julian calendar. They will argue it's now. Granted, some will say, "Well, it's the revised Julian calendar and it's not the Gregorian calendar." This is a difference that only occurs once every 400 years. So, for all intents and purposes, it is the Gregorian calendar. So that is not honest. But the way they would steelman it would be to say that the Julian calendar is inaccurate. There's other ones like underneath, like it was made by a pagan, so on and so forth. Like most of these are, for lack of a better word, emotional arguments. When you're arguing that something is better than something else, but you are talking about tradition, subjective questions become secondary. Right. And so I may think that the Good News Bible is better than the King James, but that doesn't mean it's more accurate, and we know it's not. So right. The point is that subjective opinions notwithstanding, that's not a good argument. The other one, and this is the underlying thing, we mentioned ecumenism, and we mentioned how ecumenism is wrong. Whether this is one of the problems that I have had in dealing with people who in world Orthodoxy are making their general arguments for why we're wrong. And it boils down to very simply, ecumenism is okay. So whereas we would regard it as a heresy, they actually will say ecumenism is wrong, but when you pin them right down on it, they don't really believe ecumenism is wrong. And so their belief is different than ours because we believe in one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, and they believe in one somewhat invisible but mostly Catholic and Apostolic Church, which is not the same thing.
Right. Right. So you guys are even more strict on the you must be inside the one true church to be saved. Whereas a lot of the world Orthodox that I talk to, if you really press them on that, they'll say something like, well, a lot of you Protestants are saved because the church is partly invisible, but you would hold to a much stricter view of that and say, no, you must be within true Orthodoxy. Is that correct?
I would say this, and I'm going to say it like this because hopefully as you get some world Orthodox scholars, I want you to see this. I will say that our position is honest. And what I mean by that is the church's historical boundaries have always been set that way. We did not make that up whole hog. We still will apply mercy. We will still try to be nice, but we know where the boundaries of the church are. Now, most of these people, when they're arguing with us, will say, of course we agree with you on that, but they do not actually agree with us on this. So if that's the case, it's not that we're stricter, it's that we're not lying because we are saying what we mean and not saying something other than what we mean.
Right. So, yeah. And I would take I take no offense to it either way. Yeah. It doesn't matter to me what someone else believes about me. But I want to pull this comment up on the screen really quick. It said no EO would say the church is partly invisible. It's what the wording that they use. Maybe they don't say the church is invisible, but they do say that salvation is also outside of the church. That's what I meant to say. So perhaps I worded it wrong, Walker, but they do say, and I've had talks with many, many Eastern Orthodox guys, that they will admit that there is salvation outside of the church. It's not normative, but it is there.
Well, what we would say is that those who can be saved outside the church are up to the mercy of God, and we know nothing about them. So that would be, I think, and that is a fair statement. That is why when a non-Orthodox passes on, we simply say, Lord, have mercy, because we don't know what is going to happen. We're not God. Have there been cases in history where heterodox, even pagans, have been pulled to heaven by God out of Hades? Absolutely. Do we know who they are? Not really. So I'm not going to make claims that, wow, I'm looking at this comment section. There's some angry people here. Some of them I recognize, like Calciu. He's a constant angry guy. And but this is going to be interesting. A lot of them are saying things like, well, I saw one that was my favorite, which was a thing. He's lying. You need to get a priest on.
Yeah.
We're trying. Like, this is the closest we've gotten to a priest on, because, a World Orthodox priest, because I am a priest. So anyway, the point is that if they're not willing to come on, and I've been hearing there might be rumors that one might come on today, which I am looking forward to, because I have tried for the past 3-4 years. I have been trying to get that debate, and it has to be the only opportunity I had was a 3v1 debate where it was basically very heavily curated. I still count it because I still think I did great, but the point is, so these guys don't do well without Walker. Who do you think is asking for the debate with Father Peter Hears? I'm the one who wrote to him a dozen times. I'm the one who's put it public. I'm the one he responded to and said, if I thought it was worth it, I would have a debate with you 10 times. And I responded with, of course you don't think it's worth it, because that would make me more visible to your followers, and you do not want that. So I'm the one who asked for it, and he's the one saying no. And if Father Peter is a little offended and is here watching live, please come on. Thank you.
I do think that is one of the difficult things about getting you a debate with a World Orthodox priest, is because I
have a reputation.
It exposes a fraction in this what would otherwise be seen as very monolithic structure of Orthodoxy, and that so I'm gonna ask you a question about the church being under state control. But before we do that, I want to bring up an Eastern Orthodox guy who just called in. He is a common guy on the channel. You talked to him last time.
Right.
So I'm gonna bring him up on the stage. Spenny, you have the floor.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey there, Spenny.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
How you doing, John? I don't think I would call you father.
I know none of you do. Most of the diorites are make a very big point about calling me by my first name, which, by the way, doesn't affect my ordination at all.
I understand your perspective. I have a question for you.
Sure.
When I consider church history, and I look at somebody like Saint Athanasius, how, and help me with this, what is the distinction between you and Athanasius?
I don't understand what you mean by the distinction. Saint Athanasius broke communion with everyone except 5 bishops on earth. Like, he broke away from all of them because they were Arians. That is identical to our position. We do not remain in communion with heretics. Just like, not just Saint Athanasius, Saint Maximus the Confessor, Saint Cyril of Alexandria, Pope Saint Martin. There's a book, and I think I might have shown it last time, but I'm going to recommend it again. If you do not fully understand the nature of how confusion works in time of heresy, how the church organizes itself, The History of Resistance by Subdeacon Nectarius Harrison, highly recommend, covers hundreds of instances in church history. It's about 400 pages worth, and it'll give you a real understanding of how you're supposed to react to heresy. So
as a layperson or as a...
Well, no, St. Athanasius was a bishop. So as a bishop, you have to separate and you have to administer the church. As a layperson, you just have to follow a true bishop. So if you're following a false bishop, it's just a matter of going to a true bishop and asking what to do.
So let me get this clear. You're claiming you are in the exact same position as St. Athanasius?
Absolutely not. St. Athanasius was under persecution. He had to deal with a lot of things. I would say that somebody in Russia or Greece who's being persecuted by the World Orthodox is a much closer position. I'm in America, where at least I know I'm free. And so the point is, currently, there is no attempt to make my existence illegal, although there have been some people who wanted that. But the point is, no, I wouldn't say I'm like St. Athanasius at all, because I don't have to deal with active persecution. But because of that, that gives me a chance to go on more of these shows and talk about true Orthodoxy.
Okay. I guess that's it. I was just curious.
Oh, that's a fun question. Well, I'm not
You're
going to ask
distinct from Athanasius, but there are members of your communion who are in the similar situation of
Absolutely.
Athanasius.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, okay. I guess that's it. I don't have much more than that. I was just curious what your response to that would be.
Well, it was good to talk to you again, Spenny, and I know you don't believe it, but God bless you.
Cool. I'm glad he got to come up here. Okay, so until we get another guy to join back stage, I'm going to ask you the state control question. So,
Sure.
You mentioned that a lot of what led up to the split between World Orthodoxy and True Orthodoxy was state control. It was Soviets, it was KGB agents.
Yeah.
And this is a lot of what I hear when talking about certain councils. For example, the iconoclast, right? This was also a state. What I hear from EOs anyway, when I bring this up, is that the state kind of shoved it down Orthodoxy's throat, and that synod or that council was not deemed to be ecumenical, and it was later overturned by Nicaea. And so
you're talking about the Council of Hieria, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I'm wondering, is this a similar situation in your view, where you believe that the state kind of forced the calendar down Orthodoxy's throat, and you guys were the ones who did not take the bait, who did not submit to that? Am I getting that right? Is it a similar situation to?
Yeah, I would put the calendar as part of the whole ecumenism thing. So I would put that in that ecumenism umbrella, because the real motivation to the calendar was ecumenism, to have a common calendar with the heterodox. So I would say that is definitely part of it. I don't know that. I mean, the case of the Seventh Council is unique, and the Council of Hieria before it, because one thing to remember is that the reason they were called iconoclasts is because they were breaking icons that were already there. So the question has to be whether or not, what was the original practice? Now, we know that the icons were there by the time of the Council of Hieria and then the time of the Second Council of Nicaea. The question is, were they there going back to the times right after the apostles and fathers? And so both councils provide arguments for that. I happen to think that the arguments at Nicaea are completely valid. So from my perspective, it was, now granted, the state, as you pointed out, took opposite sides at different times. But that just, for us, because we believe that truth is unchanging, that just means that the state could be wrong. So that's part of the thinking. I hope I don't know, did that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And so, sorry, people are saying there's not a link. It was in the pinned comment. I'm going to here. I'm going to put it in the chat again for you guys. One second here. Let me go over to YouTube and pin it there here. Link to join. There it is. I just dropped it in. I'm going to pin that again. There we go. All right. Okay. So that does answer my question. And now can you tell us what would be your, I guess, imagine, because we don't have an EO on here right now. Hopefully we'll get a couple up here now that they have the link, but,
or as I call them, a WO.
Yeah, sorry, WO. So what if you could steel man again their position until they get here?
I know I have to do the work for them.
Right. So why did they decide that this was all okay? You told me the calendar one, and you said that they kind of deny the ecumenism thing.
Yeah, they say it's okay, and that's ultimate. That's generationally, because they've been trained in that for going on 50, 60 years straight. Generationally, they are indoctrinated into ecumenism. So of course they don't see anything wrong with it. They're used to it.
Okay. All right. That makes more sense. So from your point of view, what is the biggest issue right now with world orthodoxy? Would you say it's the modernism? Is that what is deteriorating the faith in your view?
I would say it's the ecumenism first, because modernism can be reversed. But modernism and, again, all the three work together. The Sergianism, working under the atheist state authorities, the ecumenism, and the modernism, they all tend to work together as to destroy and damage people's inclination towards faith. So they destroy the zeal people have for going to church and praying. And ultimately, being a zealot in Orthodoxy is not something that is considered negative. It's considered holy. And so when we hear people go, don't be a zealot, that's literal crazy talk. Orthodoxy is filled with zealots historically and filled with people we refer to as fools for Christ, people who seemed insane to the regular populace, but were actually saintly people united to God in ways that were invisible to the public at large until later. So that's basically, the essence of Orthodoxy. The beauty of it, the freedom of it disappears. It's chafed underneath. So on the one hand, I could get into the details of how ecumenism damages souls, etc. But when you look at the spirit of the thing, if you go to, say, St. John's Monastery in Kobolsko, which is a GOC monastery, it's a true Orthodox monastery, you look at the spirit there compared to going to Abbot Tikhon's over at Vashon Island. And yes, I know I'm naming names, but Abbot Tikhon there, he's a hero among a lot of the people in your chat, but he cannot help but say, whenever he says the one true church, he cannot help but name drop the words Roman Catholics with it. He can't. It's like some sort of twitch. He has to say that the Orthodox and Roman Catholics are one church, which is insane. And anyone could look that up. But it's not just him. He's just a symbol. The point is that you hear bishops of their church say that because they believe it. That's why they address the Pope as Your Holiness and take blessings from him and so on and so forth. They believe he's the Pope. And if you believe that the Pope is actually the Pope, that he actually has spiritual authority, you're not Orthodox.
Right. Okay. So can you break down the structure of hierarchy? So do you have, are there separate sees for true Orthodoxy and world Orthodoxy, or do you share the same sees, same patriarchs, but just different structure in the bishop sense? Can you just explain that to us? How does the hierarchy of the church work since there is this division?
Yeah. What ends up happening, and this is the way historically, again, get that book, History of Resistance, what happens is parallel churches will form. So in other words, there is a New Calendar Archbishop of Athens. There are a couple of competing true Orthodox Old Calendar Archbishops of Athens, but there's one main one that's like 80% of the people. And the point is that they're in different buildings, obviously, because they can't be in the same building, but they're in the same town. They have the same, they're considered to have the same rank. Both of them claim to be the successor of the Apostle Paul. Both of them claim to be the head of the Church of Greece. And this is true in Romania, in Bulgaria, in Russia, to some degree. There's some overlapping true Orthodox jurisdictions, but the structure always has to stay basically the same because those are determined by canons, bylaws, history of the church, etc. You can't change things willy-nilly. The place where you might find differences is in America, or Africa is a confused and contested state right now. Asia, areas that, as you know, because if you work in Christian news, etc., you know that the big missionary territories of the next 100 years are going to be Africa and Asia. And the point is, we're in the thick of it there too. And so World Orthodox are in the thick of it there too. And so now over there, there's less definition because it's all mission territory. But in the old world areas, it has to follow the rules that were there.
Okay. Now you mentioned Krill earlier.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate more on Krill? And he has come in some hot water lately in certain circles, talking about his cozying up to the state. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? And then when you're done, I want to bring up one other guy who just joined in the chat here.
Sure. Patrick Kirill, or Agent Mikhailov, as he's known in the Mitrokhin archive.
Is he really a KGB agent?
Yes.
That's a real thing?
Yep. We didn't make that up.
Okay. Wow. Okay. That's surprising.
Sorry. But
because people accuse some high-level Protestant pastors of being CIA agents and stuff.
No, he is an actual documented KGB agent.
This is not a joke. Okay.
No, he is a documented KGB agent. And basically, he's always been kind of I guess the best term you can use, because the job of the clergy, for the most part, in the Soviet communist kind of structure, is observational. So the job of the clergy is to figure out what people are doing, take notes, so on and so forth, to act as general intelligence on what outsiders and foreigners are doing, etc. That was kind of the major role that the Moscow Patriarchate played in the World Council of Churches during the Soviet era. They were basically spies, and their job was to spy on people. So he did that well, and like most of the other former Soviet spies, in his regular life, he's kind of a tanky. He's just basically whatever the party says is good, so on and so forth. So when the war started, for example, in Ukraine, suddenly it was a holy war. Suddenly it's like this, for most Russians and Ukrainians, before this war started, they considered it fratricidal, that these were two ethnically similar and close people. They were related. For every Russian, they had Ukrainian cousins and vice versa. And so this was a fratricidal war. And all the true Orthodox basically said, yeah, this is fratricide. Of course, you're loyal to your country insofar as you can be, but you observe what all the other Russians were saying, which is that this is fratricidal, and all the other Ukrainians were saying. But the point is, Kirill took it to another level by saying it was a blessing from God to fight and kill on the side of Russia. Because what that was basically, he was basically calling for fratricide. And so there were Moscow Patriarchate priests who were like, this is wrong. They went to jail. And there were, lots of other people who went, complained about this. They went to jail. And so the priest I knew, for example, because this was another horrible problem, is that if you were a dissenting priest or you were in a true Orthodox church, then you could be sent to the front lines. And so my priest in Russia, when I was there, the pastor of my church, he actually left about 5 months before the war because he had a strong feeling. He knew what was happening. They were kind of giving him warnings like, we're going to put you on the front lines. So he lives in another country. He still talks to his wife, and they wait for the war to end and try to figure out how to meet and stuff like that. But ultimately, he can't go back to Russia because he knows he'll be thrown into the meat grinder. And he's not an isolated case. There are a number of true Orthodox clergy who have been thrown into the meat grinder. So we don't even know what happened to them sometimes. So in terms of what Kirill is doing, he's destroying in a way that previous KGB patriarchs had not. He's destroying faith in the church. When people see the church as some sort of bloodthirsty organization that just wants to win wars on behalf of the Kremlin, it damages their reputation. And this has unfortunately always been the case with the Moscow Patriarchate, that if the state tells them to make Orthodoxy look bad, they're willing to do it. I don't think that that's the intention here, but join the Kremlin's war.
Are you at liberty then to say that Kirill is in error?
I think he's a flaming heretic, and he's one of the biggest ecumenists. Before his role as patriarch, he was director of external church relations, which meant he was basically in charge of ecumenism there. And he was constantly in good communications with the popes and so on and so forth. And he was there at the events, just like Constantinople was, and things like that. Like, I'm pretty sure he's in the Assisi pictures that I showed last time. So the point is that, yeah.
So if let's say there were to be another, great synod or council, and Kirill was there, would you have to hold that decision as binding because it was filled with heretics in your view? Like, are you still under that?
Well, here's a funny story. In 2016, they've been trying to hold a pan-Orthodox council now for, ever since ecumenism started. Their big thing has been, we're going to hold a council. And they finally got around to it in 2016. They called it the Great and Holy Council, so on and so forth. The Greek Archdiocese absolutely recognizes this as a canonical council. 10 years later, less than half the original participating churches show up and even recognize it. It is what we would call a robber council. It was a false council, which basically pronounced false doctrines and ultimately produced nothing. And unfortunately, that's kind of how we view other councils that failed, like the Council of Hieria, so on and so forth.
Right.
and the Monophysite Council, so, etc. So from our perspective, they've already tried to hold that council. Now they're trying to save face and say it wasn't really the council, even though that's what they were saying the whole time leading up to it, because they know that they failed in something so basic as getting people together and making a statement. Whereas our churches, whether it's the GOC communion under the Clinical Synod or our synods, we do that every year. It's not a big deal to us, because we try harder to stay in real, actual communion, not just some paper thing.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's take a pause on our discussion and let's bring Chief up to the stage. Chief, what do you believe? Are you a world Orthodox, true Orthodox?
I'm just a Christian. I believe in the Bible, full gospel, sort of like Protestant, I guess you could say.
Okay, you're Protestant. Okay. What are you here to talk about?
Yeah. Oh, I did hear you say that Protestants were CIA, but they're free. Some of them are Freemasons, so that's true. They're
That's
Freemasons,
true.
which is a satanic organization. So, and they'll burn in hell. So, but I just don't understand. You guys follow the laws, right?
Well, what do you mean by the laws? Well, you mean like the laws of the state?
Like how do you get to heaven?
By believing on the Lord, getting baptized, and living His commandments.
Getting baptized to get you to heaven?
Let me ask you a question. Do you believe?
No.
Jesus Christ?
I just asked you a question.
Yeah, and what's your question?
Okay, that's wrong. That's totally false. Baptism, only Jesus Christ gets you to heaven. Receiving Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior gets you to heaven.
And what does the apostle say later on in Acts?
The thief on the cross never got baptized.
I promise you, if you get crucified next to Jesus Christ, you'll have a chance too.
How? When? How?
That's a very unique circumstance, my friend.
Not biblical. There's people on their deathbed who just meet Jesus Christ and they get saved and go to heaven.
Where's that in the Bible? Where does that?
It's all over the Bible says. The Bible says
one case in the New Testament where somebody was saved on their deathbed. Give it to
me. Let me say. The Bible says to confess Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, you shall be saved.
You said correct? Somebody was saved on their deathbed, and I want that example.
There's multiple scripture that says if you confess Jesus as Lord and Savior, you are saved. Very simple.
You said if somebody confesses on their deathbed, they're saved, and it's in the Bible. I want to know where.
I just told you, if you confess the Lord Jesus Christ and believe in your heart that Jesus is Lord, you are saved. It's very simple. Romans 10:9.
And why do the apostles say repent and be baptized for the forgiveness of sins? If that person believes, why do they have to do that?
What is baptism? Please tell me.
You don't know what baptism is?
I know what it is. What is it? What is your definition of that? It's very simple. What is baptism?
Yeah, it means to be immersed. That's what the Greek means. Baptise saying to be immersed in water 3 times in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit.
No, never said 3 times. Never says 3 times.
You probably aren't baptized either, so that's fine.
Oh, I'm baptized. I've been baptized multiple times, but it never says to be baptized.
How many times were you baptized in the name of the Trinity or in something else?
The Bible never says that to be baptized. It says to be baptized of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and then it says it all, and then it also says in Jesus' name. It says in Jesus' name one place, and another place it says Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So what I'm saying is, do you read Galatians and Ephesians where it says we're not under the law? We're not.
We're going all over the place with this.
No man should judge you by days or feast events. Do you read that stuff?
Yep. Yes, I do.
Okay, so why are you judging me by feast and moon days and all that other stuff?
I was just asking if you were baptized properly.
Okay, you do that though, don't you?
Yeah, I baptized.
I think you know where I'm saying. It's very simple. Confessing Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior is the only way to get saved. It's very simple.
When you confess that Jesus Christ
is your Lord and Savior, not have to get. You do not have to obey Him.
You have to obey.
You do have to obey Him. I agree with you 100%.
Once you say, here's the thing. Once you say, I believe upon the Lord Jesus Christ, and you believe upon the Lord Jesus Christ, and the Lord says you need to be baptized, you are being disobedient if you are not baptized.
Are you saved before you get baptized? Yes or no? when you receive Jesus Christ?
I don't know. I am not God.
Bingo. You don't know. I do know. It's very simple.
I don't think you
If
do
you
know
confess,
because you don't know
I
whether
do
baptism's
know. It's very
necessary or not.
simple.
No, I
There's
don't think
people
so.
who've never been saved, and who've never been baptized, and they receive Jesus Christ. It's very simple. If you read
you can't say had never been saved and never been baptized.
Okay.
What you mean is they've been saved without baptism. But I asked you for proof from the Bible whether they've been saved without baptism, and you couldn't give me anything. You just referenced believe upon the Lord and you shall be saved. I agreed with you. I said that first. So
bingo. So you agree with me? You agree? We're done.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Thanks, man. I won.
Have a great day. No problem.
Never.
You too. Okay, you won. That's fine.
Well, what do you? Why would you? Why you got to do feast and all that other stuff, don't you?
Yeah, you don't celebrate the feast of the Lord.
No, why would I do that?
What about the resurrection? You celebrate that?
Yeah, I do the resurrection, but I don't celebrate.
Well, we celebrate that every Sunday, right? Or you do it on Sunday, right?
No, that's the day of rest. That's the Sabbath.
Okay, so wait, do you celebrate on the Sabbath or on the Sunday?
I celebrate this. The Sabbath is every day for me. Every day is the Sabbath. It's not a special day. Sundays I take off. You know what I mean? Sundays I take off.
Okay,
so
that's the normal celebration.
Sometimes I do work on Sundays. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
sometimes I do.
I'm not judging you. That's fine.
I'm not religious. That's what I'm saying. I don't see why people would want to.
But not religious. Got it.
Nope, never said that either. I'm not spiritual. I have a relationship with Jesus Christ. I believe wholeheartedly. And I believe, even Catholics can be saved. You know what I mean? If they believe in Jesus Christ fully.
I believe that Catholics are heretics. And I hate to say that because I know I was born and raised a Roman Catholic. So I completely understand it.
That's the difference between, there's Catholics that believe everything the Bible says. You know what I'm saying? But is anybody do everything 100%?
No, that's why
Bingo,
we have faith in our Lord.
That's right. Nobody does everything exactly perfect, every day and every. So there you go. So Catholics can be saved.
Mind, hey, Chief, man, if you don't mind, I've got two more guys I'd like to bring up. Could you make a final point here to Father Joseph, and then I'm going to bring someone else up. Go. You have the last word. Go ahead, Chief.
No, I just want to. My point is, all Christians should unite and be one. And like the Bible says that there'd be no divisions among us. Let's all be one family, no matter what we believe. If we believe in Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, then we're family. Just very simple. Have a good day.
Right. I appreciate you coming up, Chief. Thanks so much. All right, I got a couple more guys here.
Okay.
I don't even know how to.
Looking forward to it.
I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's name. And then I want to bring up YP too. YP's with us. So
it's like Deli Mateu, and that's YP. Hey.
Yeah. So we got anyway. The guy's name who I don't know how to pronounce. Are you Eastern Orthodox, World Orthodox, True Orthodox?
My name's Andy.
Andy.
The YouTube handles Deli Mateu. It's my Orthodox version of Deus Vult, God's will. Right.
Awesome.
So I am, we call it Holy Orthodoxy, Eastern Orthodox. I'm in the Antiochian Patriarch.
So you're World Orthodox
in Australia.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. What do you have to bring to Father Joseph here?
Yeah, so I'll have to admit I don't know too much at all about True Orthodoxy, other than obviously from our point, it's a schismatic group from.
You said that you're Australian?
Correct.
There are actually a number of True Orthodox in Australia. I actually know a couple of them, and some of them have actually, I've spoken to them online. So if you look on the map of True Orthodox jurisdictions that we have, you'll see that there's actually quite a number of Australian True Orthodox parishes. And
we got all sorts of flavors of all sorts of things here, so it doesn't surprise me, to be honest. But
yeah,
I mean, ideally, and probably Father Joseph might agree here that the ultimate way that Orthodoxy, particularly in countries like Australia and the United States and the United Kingdom, should move forward at some point, is that we would have the Orthodox Church of Australia, the Orthodox Church of America. But I think it's just an artifact of history and immigration, the way that Holy Orthodoxy has come to what were more traditionally, formerly Protestant nations, is it's through the ethnic groups that brought those traditions with them, so that we've got multiple, because because we've got ROCOR here as well. We've got the Romanian church, the Serbian church, all valid Orthodox in my estimation, valid Orthodox churches, but under different patriarchs, which is a bit of a mess, right? But then we get into the idea of, well, who looks after the property and who gets all the asset, you know what I mean? Like the realities of the world kind of make that all a bit more difficult. But back to the point of Father Joseph's position, I don't, as I said, know too much about the true Orthodoxy. I've heard of you guys before. I think we have, and this might go to your accusation that we're ecumenist, because I would say we do have a lot in common with you, but there are some fundamental differences too on the idea of what's a valid communion and what isn't. And obviously, we're not in communion with the true Orthodox, right? With regards to the calendar, though, that's kind of what I wanted to bring up specifically. Like in Antioch, we use the new calendar for feast days, but the old calendar for Pascha and for Christmas, as an example. So it's a bit of a hybrid.
Because the calendar, that's one thing that is a bit confusing. I know what you're talking. You're talking about the revised Julian calendar, which is commonly used because it retains the Paschalian. That's actually due to mass protests and violence in many countries when they tried to switch it over. Because originally, believe it or not, the new calendar was in fact the full Gregorian calendar, and they changed the back to the traditional Paschalian later.
Okay, yeah, I'd be interested to look into that. I'm not familiar with the whole history. I mean, and where I was going to try and tie that into as an example, right? I've got family in Japan.
Okay.
I've been to Orthodox churches in Japan. One of the interesting, what's the right way to put it? I guess pragmatic dispensations that's made for Orthodox in Japan is that they can be cremated, right? Because in Japan, you can't bury people,
right,
in the ground, right? It's just not done there. I wouldn't go as far to say it's against the law, but
it's pretty close because I know that's actually a dispute among Muslims.
Yeah, it might be. I'm not sure is why I wouldn't say it, but I know that the Roko has given the Japanese churches a dispensation to do it, right? So there are, I suppose, instances in recent history where the church does alter things for the sake of the realities on the ground, for want of a better way to put it.
Well, I mean, if it's illegal for Christians to be buried, I mean, there's not much you can do about that.
Well, I think it's illegal for everyone to be buried, right? It's not just Christians.
Yeah. So the point is that's kind of a difficulty in and of itself in the state. And so,
yeah, I see where you're going with that, right? Because it's certainly not illegal to celebrate feasts.
May I make a suggestion for you, Andy? You are, as I said, I highly recommend you check the map, visit a true Orthodox church, and meet I wasn't talking to you, YP, although I'll make the same recommendation for you after. But the point is, there are true Orthodox all over Australia. Get to know them and learn more about what they do and why we're here. And you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, look, I probably won't take your suggestion. I mean, I'm quite firm in my faith and where I'm at.
Can I ask you a question?
I am open to learning things for sure.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go for it.
You said that you are open to learning things, but you said that you are secure in your faith. So if you are secure in your faith, then you should be able to tell me where I am not Orthodox.
My answer to that, and as a layman, would be that if you're not in communion with the other.
Okay, that's not that's a garbage answer. Next.
Okay.
Sorry, that's a garbage answer. Who you're in communion with was never a real thing until 1960. Just a good try though. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Look, as I said, I'm not a theologian. I mean, I'm a layman in the church, and this is my understanding of how we recognize other Orthodox, right? So we hold common beliefs.
That's a brand new way of doing it. That's completely innovative.
All right. Well, I'm certainly prepared to look into that.
That's why I said go visit a true Orthodox church.
Yeah, and again, I'm not against seeing other people, talking to other people, and hearing their views at all. Like, there's no fear that no, they're going to convert me. These kinds of things.
Exactly.
But,
cool.
So far, yeah, I'm not convinced, but it's interesting to see that point of view is out there. it's a modern schism, though, right?
Well, it started in 1917, 1920, depending on where you are.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, there's always going to be schisms and heresies come up within the church, and not saying personally that you're a bad person or anything, Father. I do not agree with you theologically, based on what I've the little understanding of what you said so far.
The good news is this. The good news is this, Andy. I don't live in Australia, and neither do all those true Orthodox in Australia. I'm not asking anyone to agree with me. Just visit, do the come and see, find out, and meet other. You'll see they probably agree with you more than your previous parish, because we're just unapologetic Orthodox. Now, people find me personally annoying, and that is okay, because I am not all of true Orthodoxy. I'm one guy of millions.
Yeah, okay. No worries. Well, nice having a brief chat with you anyway. I'll let YP continue the conversation, but God bless to everyone on the panel and all the listeners. And
God bless you.
Yeah, we'll see
Thanks
you again.
for coming, Andy.
Likewise.
See you later, man.
Have a good one.
All
hey
right.
there.
Hey, thanks for
Hey, Father Boniface. Yay.
Benedicite.
It's
Benedicite.
good to meet you, John.
Yes, you too, YP. I wanted to say, I just saw you in the chat there. I'm glad you decided to come up. I've been very interested in your posts on X. It's been a breath of fresh air in the current discourse, and so I wanted to just make that clear. I appreciate that a lot, and I was actually considering having you on a stream. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we got to meet, and hopefully we can make something work out where you and I can chat one-on-one.
Yeah.
But anyway, the floor is yours, man.
All right. Well, first of all, I would like to say that if anybody out there is watching and they're maybe inquiring into Orthodoxy, I will tell you, do not go to a true Orthodox church.
Yeah, he's been saying that on Twitter a lot.
Go to a canonical Orthodox church, not hard to find. And there's a website. Maybe I'll bring it up a little later. But so that's my first point. I'm YP, Young Penitent, at Young Penitent on X, and I got a YouTube channel too. And Father Joseph has actually a soft spot in my heart because he reposted one of my videos when I had a few hundred subscribers.
I actually have known YP for a while, and I think he's a nice guy. I think he's wrong, but I think he's a great guy otherwise, and he's always had a great beard. And so that's always good. One thing I like about him is that he's always had very traditional opinions, even though he is in World Orthodoxy. I know he's not a fan of ours. I don't know the history there. I think he was in ROCOR around the time that the split happened in 2007. I get it. That has like a lot of emotional things. I actually sidestepped a lot of that. So that's all I know about your history. But you have referred to, what's his name? I think I mentioned him earlier on Vashon Island.
Yeah, that's actually why I decided I wanted to.
Yeah, because you call him Grandpa or something, right?
Yeah, Abbot Trifon, and
Why does he up the Roman Catholics all the time?
You're wrong on that, though. I heard you. You're just
video.
Talking.
I can pull up video. He doesn't.
A video. Listen. I have been following Abbot Trifon for 20 years. Okay. I read his blog. I read his blog every day. I watch his videos. I go and visit his monastery. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have never read him anything he wrote saying the Pope is a bishop. I never said that. He says that the Catholics and Orthodox are both part of the church. I've never heard him say that. So he just said earlier that he's saying it every time he opens his mouth. I think that's a false statement. Okay, let me put it to you. Every time he talks about the church, I can't even say every time because I don't know how many times he's talked about the church. I will say that at least recorded 5 times on video, which is a substantial number of times, he has said Roman Catholics and Orthodox are one church. There's people in the chat who are pointing it out. I could ask him. I will. Actually, in fact, I will. But I would dispute that. But I challenge you to do it and ask what his real position is, and you may be disappointed. But let me ask you a question. If he does say they are the one church, what will you do about it? What will I do about it? Well, I can have a disagreement with him.
See, well, I mean, you have a disagreement with me, and that's fine and civil. But the point is, when we're talking about the boundaries of the church, that's kind of important, don't you think?
What canons would Abbott bring up that allows him to say what he's saying? If he's so canonical, what are those canons that he can be ecumenical?
Well, you have to ask him.
I thought that you would know, since you said Father Joseph is not canonical. I thought that you know yourself something about a few canons. So I'm kind of like shocked by you not knowing.
No, I don't know anything about canons. I've never read the
So, brother, you should read it. It's great.
Maybe I will. I don't know. I have trouble reading these days. My mind is turned to mush.
Why is that?
Oh, there are several reasons.
I hope my YouTube channel's not one of them.
No.
Well, your mind is not you say it's mushy, but it's straight enough to call Father Joseph non-canonical.
That's okay.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
I think that if I was in his position, I would call me non-canonical too. So I totally get that.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I will admit, I have not given you guys a fair shake in terms of listening to what you have to say, because I don't care really.
Well, that's fair. That's fair, UYP. I can't argue with that.
He's honest.
So anyhow, I wanted to dispute that, and Abbot Trifon is a wonderful man, and he's a spiritual man. He is speaking the truth, and I'll try to ask nicely. Please let me put it this way. What is the word? Try to be gracious. Try to be charitable towards him.
I'm gonna say something, and I hope that you're not offended, but I'm gonna try to be as cool and calm as possible. There was a period where I wasn't really active on Twitter, and I was mostly on Gap. And one of the people that I followed was Abbot Trifon, which I guess he had like just basically like an auto post thing going on, so on and so forth. And I read a lot of his posts, and because he, talked about nice things and stuff like that, I was like, maybe, just maybe, I'm being too rude. And to the point where I was Christmas, Orthodox Christmas, maybe like it was when I didn't have a bishop a few years ago, and there was like 2 years I didn't have a bishop, and I was like, maybe I'll just take the family over to the World Orthodox Church. And I'm not kidding. I kid you not. On my Gab, there was an article by Abbot Trifon written for Christmas, and the entire article was about why the old calendarists are evil. And I was so horrified. I was so horrified by this. And I was like, Abbot Trifon saved my life.
This is why you're going after him. This is why.
No. He saved my life, because if it wasn't for him being that direct, I wouldn't have ever realized that was kind of his real feelings. He's a soft guy, but he can be pretty nasty.
Do you watch him? Do you watch his videos now? Because
not regularly. I don't watch his stuff anymore.
Well, then how do you know that he's got 5 videos talking about the
Pope?
Pope?
I've seen excerpts.
Because people send them to you. Because this is what all you.
No, nobody sent them to me.
You guys find who?
Nobody sent them to me.
How did you find them?
Because I would see his channel sometimes, and I would flip through it occasionally.
All right. But I'm just saying, you guys are always like trading these secrets. Like this guy's that did this guy did that. It's on
public YouTubes.
You guys are, huh?
They're public.
You guys. I'm saying
we're not trading anything in secret.
I see this stuff on your. You guys will put it on a website. I'm not even sure. You guys have so many. You have schism upon schism. So people know watching. What
do you mean schism upon schism?
You got so many groups: the True Orthodox, the Genuine Orthodox, the Rocore A, the Rocore B, all these different.
Wait, let me ask you a question. Since I don't even know
what your synod is, what your group is.
Well, I'm in the Autonomous Metropolia, but that's because it's for the old Milan. The old Milan synod is basically we're what's left of the old Milan synod. But here's the thing: like you mentioned, Rocore A and Rocore V. Now you're a member of the Rocore under the Moscow Patriarchate, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, and you've been for how long? Like, what would you say? Like 20-something years, or
20 years?
Yeah. So around the same time as me. So a little bit less than me. So you remember in 2000, I mean, were you there with the whole thing with Metropolitan Vitaly, like in 2001?
Well, no, I wasn't.
Okay. Well, let me tell you, and this is going to sound awful, but the split when that occurred over the Moscow Patriarchate, over the Moscow Patriarchate's 2000 statement, and what happened to Metropolitan Vitaly, the man was literally physically dragged to a mental hospital by the Rocor's bishops at the time, where he had to prove to Canadian authorities that he was actually sane, and he finally did, and then he got to stay home in Mansonville because the synod was trying to physically drag him back. And that's not the only time he's done that, that the synod has done that. But the whole point I'm trying to make is those clergy that formed around him and became the Rocor V did that because of what was happening at the time. And the Rocor A is, as you know, the people who didn't want to go with the Union in 2007. And so they went under Metropolitan Enkefanglo, the last man standing. How is it their fault that they have two organizations when they're not the ones who did anything wrong? They were just trying to protect their orthodoxy. I'm not a member of either one, and I can see that. I would think you would too, as a member of Rocor.
Well, there has been a lot of intrigue in the history of the church, hasn't there?
There has. Unfortunately, Rocor has seen a great amount of it in the 20th century.
Could I ask you both a question? Obviously, I would assume that if someone were converting, or let's say from Islam to Christianity, you would prefer them to be Orthodox as opposed to Protestant. But would you consider the other a part of the one true church or not? I guess I'm just wondering how strongly you divide that line. Obviously, if they were to say, I'm going to go true Orthodox or Protestant, YP, you would probably say true Orthodox. Given that hypothetical, there's, I would assume you would go that route, but you would probably also then say still that true Orthodoxy is not the one true church. So that's just the question I want to pose to both of you. How hard do you draw that line? And are you exclusivistic within the sect of, Holy Orthodoxy, as you would say, YP, and true Orthodoxy, as you would say, Father?
I never would have. There was a time when I was looking for churches, and I was searching before I became a Christian, and I visited this church and I visited that church. And looking back, I don't think any of them had any appeal that I would have stuck with and been, I would have been drawn to. There was no appeal to me except the true faith, the true church. And so I would just say, I wouldn't join any of them unless it was Orthodoxy.
So Holy Orthodoxy is it, in your opinion?
Or nothing.
Okay. What about you, Father Joseph?
Just to understand the question, what you're asking me is, would I prefer if someone went to World Orthodoxy or if they went to Protestantism?
Yes.
I mean, I would say that it depends on how they go. And what I mean by that is, like at the basic parish level, like if they don't know any better and there's not much, I mean, most likely prayer-wise, I might say it's better to go with World Orthodoxy. However, there's also the whole elderism and there's the whole hierarchicalism, and frankly, some of it smells a lot like papism. And I was a former papist, so I would never recommend that. I remember when I was, and this affected me greatly when I was a Roman Catholic. Before my conversion, I'd met a couple in college, and it was a Greek Orthodox girl dating a Protestant guy. And when I asked about this as a Roman Catholic, trying to understand what they thought about the ecumenical movement, as I, at the time, being Roman Catholic, was ecumenical. I believed that all the churches should unite. And what was interesting was the Greek girlfriend actually said to the effect of, she said, I don't think I want that to happen because then Roman Orthodoxy would unite against Protestantism. And I thought that was an interesting point, but it never really left my head, in the sense that I realized that really papists gonna papist. And when I say that, I mean, it's always thinking in terms of, if I could just get as many people under my authority, then that counts as the church. And so ecumenism, especially from a papal standpoint, is oftentimes just trying to collect as many people as possible under the Pope. And so I believe that what has been happening in world Orthodoxy has been that consolidation. We have seen it at the patriarchal level with the EP. Doctrinally, they've literally been changing their doctrine to match that of the papacy. And in the Moscow Patriarchate, in terms of territorially, because they've been physically going in and taking over areas. And that's what's happening in Africa, for example.
Okay.
Hey, John, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Can you see how the one world church is being formed? Do you see what Father Joseph was saying about Orthodoxy and Roman Catholicism? Do you see the same kind of movements in Protestantism?
You mean as far as ecumenism and being ecumenical?
Consolidation, yeah.
No, not in
You
that
don't?
regard. I think Protestants in general are more ecumenical than you guys are. Lutherans, Baptists, Methodists, Anglicans. Well, maybe not Anglicans, but Baptist, Lutheran, Methodist. They all, for the most part, are very ecumenical.
You do have some conservative groups within them.
Oh, sure.
Well, what's your opinion of the World Council of Churches?
What do you mean by that?
The World
what do you
Council
know?
of Churches.
Do you
Are you
know about the
familiar with
World
that?
Council of Churches?
No, apparently not.
The World Council of Churches is an organization that kind of came from other constituent organizations in the early part of the 20th century. They claim to kind of represent a sort of supra-church movement, which includes delegations.
Are they even active? Like,
yes, they are.
I never hear anything about it. It's never in the news. Do they have any power? Does anybody listen to them?
Who do they represent, Father Joseph? Who do they represent?
They claim to represent somewhere around 70% of the Christian world.
Not Protestant and Catholic and Orthodox?
Well, the Catholics, while they're not members of the WC, have an official delegation in the WCC because they cannot proportionally represent.
Or they would heard of them. How powerful are they? Like, they must be just ignored. Like, he would have heard of them if they were this big group that was.
Well, it's subtle. They're an NGO. I don't know necessarily that they would want to be well known, etc. I mean, they work under the auspices of groups like the UN. If they're a non-governmental organization, they are of still some sort of importance, even if they're not that visible.
I think weren't they more powerful back in the 70s? I mean, Father.
Well, sure. I'm not denying that.
Back then, it was a little more of a. They were thinking they were going to do something with it, but I just.
Well, here's the problem: is that even though the globalist organizations may be changing, the globalist aims are the same. So whereas you might have had the ecumenical patriarchate represented at the World Council of Churches, and they still are, by the way, represented, on the main stage, and it's not involved that much, then at the World Economic Forum, you see that the EP is there also. So the globalism changes, but the structures underneath, they may be different, but the goal is always the same.
Yeah. Okay. Maximus is here. He's true Orthodox. He wanted to ask a question specifically to YP.
You got to get off here too soon before people start thinking.
So much has happened.
What's that?
I said so much has happened in this conversation.
Do you have one? If you could kind of consolidate to one specific question before YP has to go, that'd be great.
Well, okay. Well, about the World Council of Churches quickly. The man who's probably going to be the next ecumenical patriarchate is currently the head of the permanent delegation to the World Council of Churches of the ecumenical patriarchate. So they consider it to be extremely important. And the last delegate to the World Council of Churches from the ecumenical patriarchate was also the number 2, which was John Zazoulis, who was the person who they used to draft all the agreed statements between Rome and the East. So the EP still thinks very highly of the world. My question to YP was, I see that, and again, I know that people have been asking questions about the opinions of other people. So unfortunately, I'm going to do the same thing, which is I see that you are associate and retweet this guy. I think his name is Nathaniel a lot, and he seems to have an interesting position where he basically says don't go to the old calendar church, but he says don't go to the new calendar church either. He's kind of like he has his own. He's like,
What?
walled off or something. Like,
I've never seen him say that.
oh, you haven't seen his videos on that?
I'd have to look into that.
Oh, okay.
From the best that I could understand, if you could send me the video, because from what I understand, first of all, I've retweeted him once.
Oh, okay.
But I think I thought he was Orthodox.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Maybe he's changed his opinions. So again, he's not here, but it seemed like he was saying you should go to these sort of people who don't like the walled off people, that they don't commemorate anyone. They don't,
okay.
that was the yeah. But if you don't, if you don't know, you don't know. So yeah, that was my only question.
I saw something about him, being associated with non-commemorators, but he's a layman.
Mm-hmm.
So to be considered a non-commemorator, you actually have to be a clergy. Mm-hmm. A layman can't be a non-commemorator. So you can't really consider Nathaniel a non-commemorator. Mm-hmm. From what I understand, non-commemorators, they're from, I guess, I mean, like I said, I don't read canons. I try to do basic spiritual practice, Jesus prayer, go to church, say my prayers. I'm not reading canons. It's not really my job. But from what I've been told, it is a canonical position to hold that to cease commemorating, but you'd have to be you'd have to have true judgment in that case. Like if you're going to just make a decision about someone else, you're judging someone else at that point,
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So you'd have to be pretty sure of I'd hope you were, I'd hope you had some sort of, revelation from God or something like that, or spiritual vision to know what is true in those senses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But I think, in a way, St. Philaret made that call, and I think God has, affirmed his sanctity through his incorruption. But I guess that's
all right.
That was my question. But okay,
cool. I appreciate it.
Cool.
Thank you, Maximus.
So thanks for having me on, man. I'm gonna check out. Peace.
All right, thanks, man. Talk to you soon. Peace. All right, I want to bring
John,
up.
did you get my question? Did you? I don't remember your answer to it about the World Council
I wasn't
of Churches.
aware. I wasn't aware of the group that you were talking about, and so I guess I didn't have an answer because I was not even aware of this this group of leaders.
They were formed in like 1948, Father Joseph. There was there's a League of Nations, but there's the churches who were trying to get together. But in 1948, they constituted themselves as the world was coalescing into one new world order, and the churches got together, Protestant and Rome, basically, and the Orthodox now were all kind of coming together. And the point that I'm trying to do is kind of create connections to see that the Orthodox Church and the Roman Church are getting together and familiarizing their doctrines with one another, but it's also with the Protestants, and that it is a thick issue in the Protestant world. I mean, I was ordained in the Bible Presbyterian Church with Carl McIntyre. Carl McIntyre was an ardent anti-communist and against the World Council of Churches big time, because being a Presbyterian, he was against the ecumenical movement per se, which is kind of interesting, but it is what it was. And so anyway, but this spirit has infected the world of Protestantism also, and I highly suggest you look into the history of the World Council of Churches. It is a huge body. So I'm just saying that these same forces are at work in the Protestant world also. Enough said.
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate that. I will look into that. I have not heard of it, but I will definitely look into that. Hey, Neuro Jack, I wanted to bring you in here. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. So, did you have any questions for either of the fathers here with us? YP left. I was hoping to bring you up while he was on, but he said he had to duck out early, so I apologize for that. But yeah, if you have any questions or anything like that, I'd love to have you ask.
Yeah, thank you. And God bless everybody. I appreciate everybody being here. You know, I've talked to Sweden and Boniface and some people in the chat as well. I'm sure that my presence here will be greatly lamented, but I do come in relative peace because I have a very ecumenical statement for people. And I like to start by reading Paul. This is the ESV version of the New Testament. And this quote says from Paul, "But I, brothers, could not address you as spiritual people, but as people of the flesh."
Uh-oh. Jack, we lost you. Jack, you there? He's on mute. He's out.
Fell off.
He fell off. Fist of Nicaea. This guy is an EO.
Oh, this guy has been mad. If that's who I think it is, he's been on the Twitter or on the YouTube. Well, no, mostly the Twitter, I think.
Hello.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, man.
Okay.
Go for it. You have something to say to these guys?
Yeah, John, thanks for opening up the space. Specifically in Mr. Sweden. And my question was, why are you consistently posting stuff against Eastern Orthodox to
That's
the point?
It's a stupid question. I'm
where
going to cut you off right here. Hold on. Once again,
well, let me finish.
No, and I'm going to stop because I think it's a dishonest line of questioning. You know very well that I feel, and that my belief is that we are the Eastern Orthodox. You want to shove.
John, I lost my audio. I'm going to plug in and come back in. Okay, plug out.
You want to demand I use your terminology, and I refuse to. So let's start there.
I'll give you an example. So the other day, and I can't remember who it was, but some Protestant put up something attacking two of our saints. Another Eastern Orthodox went to defend. Are you even going to let me ask the question?
Can I ask who they are?
What's that?
Did you say two of our saints? You mean your saints, or you mean the church's saints?
The church's saints.
No, who are they?
That's not the point.
Paisios and Porphyrios. Am I right?
No, I don't think that was correct.
Okay, then. Oh, I was right on one, maybe not the other.
So two of the saints.
When were they made?
They were. Let me get out the question. So this person was defending two of our saints, and you started attacking them.
Poisoned question. If I don't believe they're saints, I'm gonna attack.
No, that wasn't what you said. That wasn't what you said at all.
Name them.
You said I didn't think he was defending the saints.
And I said, if I don't believe they're saints, I don't think
you're just going to talk over me
because you're not purposely not saying things to misrepresent. Who were they?
I specifically, you know who they are because you commented on it. What are you talking about? That's not even the question at hand. The question at hand is why you chose to attack that person, not because you don't believe they're saints, but because you thought, oh, well, this guy isn't defending them when he clearly was.
Wait a second.
In every single instance I see you, you're attacking Orthodoxy.
Okay, wait
a
second.
Why do you
hold on. I'm not attacking Orthodoxy. I remember what you're talking about now. In that specific scenario, you are talking about Saint Sergius and Bacchus, who are being misrepresented as homosexuals.
Correct.
The guy responded with the effect of something that I interpreted when I read it as, well, so what if they were? You shouldn't be attacking saints anyway. The proper answer is they were not homosexuals. Not you shouldn't be attacking them if they were homosexuals because that's weird.
That's not what he said.
That's
not
totally.
That's
we can
not
pull
the
it
defense
up.
that he
You
made.
if you want to pull up your argument on Twitter, we can. But it's a silly argument.
Pull it up because that's not the.
I conceded that might have been not my understanding. I might have misunderstood that. That's not a great example of that.
But it's constant. It's constant, sir. And why do you?
How long have you been studying my ex since you're saying it's constant?
I mean, nearly every post that I've seen, there's maybe been one or two that was like neutral.
How many is that? I've never seen your name until like a week ago.
What does that matter?
Or 3 days ago. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't know how long you've been studying me. I don't know if you just decided to jump on and be a troll now because of this stream. As a matter of fact, I think I don't think I've actually seen your name ever until I was invited to this stream, which tells me that you could be somebody that I've spoken to many times over the years with a fake name, or you could be somebody completely new trying to misrepresent what I'm saying, or you could just be a troll. There's a lot of choices, but the point is, when you present yourself as saying that I always speak this way, when you're suddenly a mysterious new authority that popped up on me, then I have every right to ask what your motivation is.
Well, I could still draw from my anecdotal experiences.
You can, but nobody knows what that is. You're a nobody with no history, and
who cares?
You have no
You're not even letting me give the question out. You're
because
so
you're saying I'm going by my
like
own anecdotal history. That it could be made up, man. You're anonymous.
What's made up? What are you talking about?
You're saying your own anecdotal history, but you are an anonymous person who just showed up 3 days ago. That means nothing to them.
Who cares? Anybody can go to your X and look at all your comments.
They can.
This isn't mysterious. This
I
isn't
know.
top secret. And they're going to
know.
see exactly what I'm saying right now.
No, they're
which
not.
Is, in almost every instance, you're attacking what you call world orthodoxy.
Making accusations,
but my real question is, the heart of my question is, why are you going on the show thinking that John is your buddy? Because John is, and I'm not insulting you, John. You're doing the smart move. He's putting you on here to make orthodoxy at large look bad. Yeah, and he doesn't even have to do anything because you're doing it yourself.
Here's the funny part.
You just went on there and said if
Fisk.
somebody was between Protestantism and Orthodoxy, you tell them to go to Protestantism.
I didn't actually say that, but more importantly,
that's exactly what you said.
No, it's not. It's not. But
you said, "Oh, I don't know. Maybe it just depends on."
Well, no offense. The impression people like you give me of what world orthodoxy is right now tell me I would rather people go to Protestantism than go to your crypto-papist religion. So, since we are now talking here about what we're doing and what John's role is, let us say, for example, that you are correct, and his purpose is to make world orthodoxy look bad. Surprise, Fist! That's also my purpose because I believe you guys are descended from evil murder people. So, of course, if I want to expose evil murder people pretending to be the church, I'm going to do that because that is the service of truth. Does that make sense to you?
No, that's a terrible argument to
what
make.
are you defending?
Let me jump in. Let me jump in real quick. Let me steel man both of you guys really quick, and that way the audience can know what's going on. So, Fist, your position, correct me if I'm wrong, your position is that Father Joseph spends too much time, or maybe he should spend no time, in criticizing what you would call, Fist, Holy Orthodoxy, and he would call World Orthodoxy, because you believe that is creating visibility for the fracture within Orthodoxy, and it's driving a wedge into Orthodoxy, deterring people from Orthodoxy. Is that kind of a steel man of your position?
Yeah, John, pretty much. And I would add, him attacking Orthodoxy at large is actually hurting his own position, whether he wants to admit it or not. But yeah, John, that's pretty concise.
So, Father Joseph, your position is that World Orthodoxy is a heretical group and they are not in the one true church. And so, on your view, they're the same as Catholic, Protestant, or anyone else.
Well, I'd say they're worse because they haven't been because the Catholics and Protestants haven't been actively persecuting us for 100 years and trying to cover up our existence while trying to smother us and suffocate us.
So this is more personal for you because of how closely you and the history of true Orthodoxy and World Orthodoxy is. And so then I see, okay, so Fist of Nicaea, you see that as being counterproductive because you see Father Joseph as singling you guys out rather than attacking me and Catholicism. He's focusing on you because it's a personal, more, well, I would say internal battle. You guys obviously don't see it that way. But okay, I make sense of the argument now.
He's the spiritual son of people who killed our saints.
So from here then, with both sides kind of steel-manned, Fist of Nicaea, go ahead and present your case as to why that's a bad idea for him, because he does believe that you are heretical. Why is it bad for him to go against you?
Yeah, and I understand his position, but I think what he fails to understand is Orthodoxy has had a tremendous boom. I don't think anybody would argue that. And if anything, it's probably helping him because more eyes on Orthodoxy will bring more people as a byproduct to true Orthodoxy, I believe. So
Yeah, but
him
that's no
attacking
thanks to you
Orthodoxy,
guys. No
all
thanks
that.
to you guys. You guys did not even want me on this program. So don't even try that. Don't even try to say, oh, that will help true Orthodoxy because they'll find him. No thanks to you. When I was on the Crucible debate, no less than David Erhan wrote the hosts of the Crucible and said, don't let him on. So do not give me this garbage about how it's trickling down to the true Orthodox. It's coming because people are finding out about us because you're lying about us, and I'm going on other channels and exposing it, like this one.
Okay.
And that's why you're mad.
Anyways, well, I'm not mad at all.
Oh, of course you are.
No.
Even your name is mad. It's all made up. Come on, man.
My name is mad? What are you talking about?
Your name, Fist of Nicaea, like, oh, I'm St. Nicholas slapping Arius. It's all made up, dude. You made that up a week ago or less.
I'm not St. Nicholas slapping. I don't even know what you're talking about.
That's okay, buddy.
Fist,
anyways,
do you go ahead. Finish your point.
Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, do you think that streams like this are hurting Holy Orthodoxy, or are they boosting true Orthodoxy? Which one, or both? But what I'm asking is, which one is the most frustrating to you?
I think they're hurting both. I think if you had true Orthodoxy coming out talking about their position, I don't think there would be a big deal with that. But that's not what he's doing. He's coming out and constantly attacking Holy Orthodoxy. And
I'm not.
It's not
Holy
doing
Orthodoxy.
anything good for him.
I'm
nor
not.
is it doing
I'm
for us,
not
because
attacking
all the
Holy
detractors.
Orthodoxy.
Well, can you just let me speak, sir? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Well, no. If you're going to say I attack Holy Orthodoxy, I'm a priest of Holy Orthodoxy Anonymous. So don't tell me what I'm attacking.
There's a category difference there. Obviously, what Fist means by Holy Orthodoxy to you, Father, would be world Orthodoxy.
Ecumenist. Yes, I know.
So go ahead.
Could I interject here? Something that John, the Apostle John, in his third epistle says, "I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in truth." And so we have a standard of truth, and we're upholding it. The true Orthodox are upholding it, and I'm sorry that other people envy that and malign it and are embarrassed by it. But that's the way it is. Truth is beautiful, it's wonderful, and we're presenting it, and we're calling people to turn to it and have the life of Christ and avoid judgment.
If that's your position, sir, and that's what you're asserting, that's fine. But that's not what this gentleman is doing. He's constantly attacking Orthodoxy. And my point is that it's actually hurting him, because when he attacks Orthodoxy at large and there's this big dust up, it allows detractors to see, like, oh, look, Orthodoxy, they're obviously not. Which Orthodox church? I've already seen it in the comments. And he doesn't understand.
And that's why when people say which Orthodox church, I say go to our map.
The truth is honorable and will shine forward, which is what we are doing with Father Joseph and myself. The truth stands on it for itself. Jesus said, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life," and you guys are false and leading souls astray. And so, therefore, that's the way truth works. It exposes darkness.
Yeah, well, I don't think constantly slandering people is how you get to truth, sir.
Who are we slandering?
What's that?
Who are we slandering?
Well, just the other day you said that I would, if I could, have you all thrown in jail, which is completely erroneous.
I said that people have said that to us. Which people have said to us?
No. I said, why would you think that I'm going to throw you in jail?
Because other people have said that to us.
You said, yes, you would.
Okay,
I said,
great.
I wouldn't throw people in jail. That's ridiculous.
I don't know that and I'll be honest with you, I don't know that I believe you. I think that if you had state authority, you would probably throw us in jail.
Why would I throw you in jail?
Because of the fact that is what your leaders suggest and have suggested for decades.
No, I wouldn't throw anybody in jail. One of our most
Why are you under bishops who would throw people in jail?
Gabriel of Georgia was tortured by communists, beaten brutally. Why do you think that I would do the same thing and throw other people in jail over that?
Well,
again,
you do realize that other people like Elder Gabriel who didn't listen to Patriarch Leah did get thrown in jail. Like, I don't know if you were aware of that.
Certainly, there were bad things that happened, and that's the course of history.
Wait, okay, here's the thing. Elder Gabriel was anti-Stalinist and was anti-ecumenist. He accepted a house from Patriarch Leah. And frankly, that might have been the only good thing Patriarch Leah did in a long time besides pulling out of the World Council of Churches. However, Patriarch Leah was a professional ecumenist, was a KGB agent, and overall persecuted the true Orthodox. So holding Elder Gabriel as a standard ignores everything that was happening around Elder Gabriel, including holy bishops, many of whom were true Orthodox, thrown in jail at his hand. At the not Gabriel's hand, at Elia's hand.
Sorry,
so
I'm not hearing your talk.
Come again?
Maybe it's just me.
Oh, you didn't hear anything I said?
John, do you have audio?
Yeah, I have audio. I couldn't tell if you were being sarcastic and rhetorical or if that was real.
No, I can't hear the other person.
You can't hear him?
I can hear you. I can't hear anybody else.
Interesting. Okay.
What's up, Father Joseph?
Hey, Moeller.
Yeah, we got Moeller.
What's up?
Fist, can you hear Moeller?
Yeah, can you hear me, bro?
No, you're the only one I can hear.
Really?
Okay, so apparently you can't hear anybody.
Hey, yeah, why don't you drop
Tune
out
in and come back. That's what
I
he
was
needs to
going.
do.
What's that? Boniface?
Drop off and come back.
Yeah,
right.
probably.
Reboot.
I was gonna bring someone else up as well, Fist. So if you want to make
That's fine. That's fine, John. I've had my piece.
I appreciate you coming up, man.
Thank
you,
you, sir.
Peace.
Yeah, how dare you? Father Joseph, I'm going to tell you something. How dare you?
What I do now?
Trying to tell the truth. How dare you? Coming out on these platforms.
I got
You're just talking and talking truth. I'm telling you.
I do my best, but it's subversive, but it's my new plan. It seems to be working excellently.
No, I'm joking with you, but this is the attitude that they have, man.
I know. I know.
So, yeah, and I think John having you on has been good because now people are asking questions, and I
agree.
I don't know what would come. Sorry, let me adjust. I don't know why you would be doing this, to be honest with you, unless you really felt the conviction of the historical take of your church and sort of where you think world orthodoxy is wrong.
Yeah.
So, but I know that you're going to get clobbered and people are going to talk about you, but to debate you on the topic and to just come in here with emotionalism to say, why are you doing this, bro? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, well, and the problem is that they don't. I think that a part of them they hear some of it and there's cognitive dissonance. Like when I talk about the martyrdom of St. Catherine Roudis, she was a young mother in 1925, I believe it was, that she was in the church, in a true Orthodox church praying. The priest was there. The cops came to arrest the priest, and she tried to shield him with her body, and the cop basically bashed her in the head and killed her. And so she was a mother of like 2 or 3, and she was young. And the point is, when people hear stuff like this, their brain shuts off because they don't want to accept the fact that their bishops were ordained by people who consented to murdering people. And this is really true, really difficult, especially with the Russian church, with the Moscow Patriarchate especially, because you had cases where these people were reporting on their parishioners to the Soviets. They were part of the reason that innocent people went to jail. So when you hear this sort of stuff, and it's 2026, you're like, oh my gosh, that can't be real. And eventually you get to the point where you start thinking that everyone's around you's a liar. And a lot of these people go through cognitive dissonance. So I understand it. But usually when I see the aggressive anonymous person, I usually will try to match vibes because, frankly, I don't think that they're being honest in their presentation.
Hey, you're never going to get an objection from me on matching vibes. Not at all. So, no, I like the energy and I appreciate what John's doing. I think, of course, you guys agree on one topic, but everybody knows you disagree on the other. They know the differences here. So nobody's playing games, but in the end, people are going to have to decide. And if they can't hear the information or they think it's untrue, then debunk it. Then just say it's false. But I don't really think that there's legitimate claims. And if you're saying is there is no evidence, then just pull up and wreck them. Wreck Father Joseph whenever.
I'm here to be wrecked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's not like you're not outside, but this is how this whole thing's going to be kind of spun and orchestrated. And I just came up to because I saw you here and I'm doing better, and I appreciate your prayers too, John. So we're doing better.
Amen.
So
Amen.
the Lord bless you for that.
Good to hear from.
Oh,
yeah,
look
it's
at
good to see you
this.
again. Hey, it's JP.
There's
Yeah.
JP, bro. I feel like
JP.
I feel like I was gonna talk smack about JP, and he just pulled up. What up?
Nah, I just came here, man, to say what's up, man.
Yeah, show some support. I was gonna do that
Nice
too.
to meet you, JP. I don't think we've ever spoken before, but it's nice to say.
We talk on Twitter all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
That's fair.
But
Yeah.
no, I was gonna say one of the points that I want to point out, Father Joseph, this is what I've been thinking about last time we chatted, I think. So what do you see as the ultimate goal of this? Is there any way that you see that you would be united back to this church, considering who's running the show? Meaning, or is it true Orthodoxy saying, no, it's a true schism, it's forever, there's no unity in that sense where we go back?
Well, this is the way I look at it. First off, I was never, there was a point where I went to World Orthodoxy, but it was after I had already been received and baptized as a true Orthodox Christian. So I never actually had to be part of World Orthodoxy at any point. But more importantly, the history of the church is kind of repetitive. I hate to say that, but history tends to, it may not always repeat, but it generally rhymes. And so what we see happening here is we see like the World Orthodox, many of them more and more are becoming less concerned about the centrality of truth, less concerned about the centrality of the church, the one holy Catholic Apostolic Church. It's being spread out more, like the Roman Catholics are saying now, and more of the liberal Protestant groups are kind of forming their own little mass of modernist ecumenism. I don't know what's going to happen to that,
right?
But my guess is that more of it is going to fall apart. I mean, look, even the Anglican Communion this year, just look at what happened with Sarah Mullally. So the point is, what I think we're going to see is a massive organizational restructuring worldwide among Christians, not just in Orthodoxy, although that's going to be a big thing. And we're seeing a lot of people are talking about Orthodoxy. We're going to see restructuring going on in World Orthodoxy, in true Orthodoxy. I think it's going to be, you're going to see more people leaving and splitting from what is officially World Orthodoxy, and some of them will talk to us. Some of them will talk to us years from now. A good example of this is the Diocese of Vršac and Prizren in Serbia. Now, this diocese was generally pretty anti-ecumenical, and they knew the history of many holy people in Serbia. But they didn't want to join the true Orthodox of Serbia, where they were small. They were convinced, for example, that they were going to retake Serbia. And so they made their own bishops, etc. And they have a large community. But the main Serbian church, which is ecumenist, wants nothing to do with them. They want to completely destroy them, have them all thrown in jail, get rid of them. Those people are eventually going to have to talk to us. That's just how it goes. And so that's
so
the
you
way
see some restructuring, possibly unification of people, maybe examining your proposition, or meaning the evidence that you presented as the true church or the true position, and you'll start to engage in more convos where they're going to actually look at the case that you're making, you think?
Absolutely. I can tell you this, and I always say this to people. I've been saying this for ages. It may look chaotic now, but you should have seen it 20 years ago.
I was going to ask, how has it improved? But
in 20 years, 70% of the true Orthodox world is in communion with other true Orthodox around the world. So even myself, 20 years ago, I could commune at my churches in this country and at the churches that the Milan Synod had in a few places. Now there's plenty of churches I can go to and commune and serve in America, in Greece, in Latin America, in Europe, in Russia. And this is not just me. There's a lot of clergy. Most true Orthodox clergy can make the exact same claim. They just have to ask their bishop for permission when they're traveling, and they can go celebrate in another country. 20 years ago, that would have been impossible to envision.
So then you would pull up and they would essentially say, no, get out of here. You can't.
Yeah, because nobody was in communion with each other. They were all like, we can't
ask the Father a question?
Yeah, sure.
So what can you tell me about Father Seraphim? Was he like a prophetic figure in your circle? Like, what was he? Was he like the Malcolm X of Orthodoxy? Like, what was he?
He was definitely not the Malcolm X of Orthodoxy, but he was definitely, he had a movement, but it's not like what how worldly movements form. Because
was it like, sorry to cut you off, but just because I want to home, was this like a prophetic? Like, was he like a prophet to you guys? Because I know he's a very powerful guy. Because I've read of him, I heard of him.
Yeah.
So is he like a prophet to you guys? Like, was he like one of those like chosen, called people? Like, how do you see him?
Well, I think that that's going to be how a lot of Americans would describe him. Father Seraphim was originally, he was part of the Beatnik movement and then eventually went into Eastern religions. But when he got called into Orthodoxy, he truly got spiritually called. And he abandoned everything to follow Jesus Christ. So that he literally became a monk. So that he took the words of the gospel straight to heart and moved into the middle of nowhere. And like nobody, when you move to the middle of nowhere, you have no expectation that the world is going to follow you. But that is how it works whenever people become monastics and truly pursue holiness. Right. So some of his writings, like Orthodoxy and the Religion of the Future, which largely describes today, are indeed prophetic. But his he's probably well known for not only his asceticism, but making the difficulty, because when you read the lives of the saints,
now, Father Joseph, one question to add to that, and obviously because that's very good. Now, on top of that, why isn't he canonized?
Among the true Orthodox, there are actually the largest true Orthodox synod did canonize him. So that's part of the reason.
They canonized him about a month ago, right?
They glorified him. No, it was more than that. We did it last about a year and a half ago. What happened? I'll tell you what happened. This is what happened. He was glorified by the Row Court A. And when we say glorified, because canonized is really a Roman Catholic term to insert into the canon. But the process is basically after they've determined that he's, holy, etc., they do the final prayers for him and then eventually services to him. But the whole point is that was done in November of 2024 by the Row Court under Metropolitan Agafungal, which is separated from the Row Court Moscow Patriarchate. But because Father Seraphim is so beloved among many people, once he was recognized, more and more true Orthodox were like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Or they start, bishops of other true Orthodox synods have all been saying, yeah, we should really consider inserting him into the calendar. In many cases, true Orthodox churches may just recognize another church's glorification work and just say, okay, we'll just insert them into the calendar, because that has happened before as well. But what happened is so much noise was being created by the knowledge that Seraphim was a saint that the Row Court MP became nervous, because they own that property. Well, now the Serbians, I think, own that property, but they control his body. And so from their perspective, it's not a good look to have a saint that's not recognized with a whole bunch of people going to do pilgrimages at his body. Now, on our map, we purposely put him there because we know people are looking for him. So the whole point is they have to do something. And it came to a head last month. Last month, they were about to say that they were going to glorify him. That got reported or leaked. And then they immediately said, oh, no, we didn't say that we were going to glorify him. He's on the path, because they want to keep the momentum going where people are going there, but they don't want them to realize that there has been a split, and they don't want them to realize that St. Seraphim was pro-true Orthodox, and that his early writings even say that, and they changed them after he died. So that's part of the...
So there's literally documented evidence of them changing his, trying to change his quotes and his stance?
Oh, yeah, they did. Yeah, that's you can look at the different editions.
Really?
Yep.
That would be an interesting topic right there.
Oh yeah, I would ask Brian on X. There's a lot of people who know
any literature I could read of this guy that you would recommend?
Probably his life. I'd say Father Seraphim Rose's life and works. The original one was pretty good. Not of This World is also pretty good, but you have to realize that these are written by biographers with their own political stances.
Okay.
So that's, but the basic facts are correct.
Yeah. I don't mean to jump in here, but my suggestion would be to read Father Seraphim himself. Read his books.
That's the best suggestion.
So, anyways, fellas, I'm gonna hop off.
So it's good seeing you again, Mahler.
Good seeing you, brother.
Likewise.
I'll DM you on X, and then John will stay in touch. I'll hit you guys up. Appreciate it. God bless you guys.
Thanks for coming on, Muller. Peace. Stacky, did you have something you wanted to ask Father Joseph?
Yeah, I had a pretty straightforward question.
Sure.
If are we? Yeah. So, JC, I wanted to say thank you too. I do appreciate, through all this over the last several weeks, it does seem like you're trying to, seemingly anyway, give everybody a fair shake. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I want to present the arguments in their best form, and people can see which ones stack up and which ones don't.
Well, real quick, Father.
Anyway, so I had a pretty straightforward
Well, let me get
question
out of
for
here,
Joseph
Father.
here.
Thank
You and
you
I
for.
had a
No
brief,
problem. God bless you, JP.
Thank you for answering my question, Father. Take care.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming, JP.
This is Stacky. Oh,
Hi, Stacky.
So you and I had a very brief conversation on X yesterday, and I know that you thought that I was, you'd mentioned that you thought that I was coming bad faith.
Was that are you the map guy?
I'm the map guy, and I want to be.
Okay.
I want to be honest. I'm genuinely curious here, because I do feel in some sense that we're making a mountain out of a molehill out of the true orthodoxy thing here.
Mountain out of a molehill. You say, hey, Reader General.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Father bless. You did say
God
that you
bless
would be able to. You made the claim that there are. I mean, can you say again? 10 to 15% of the number of Eastern Orthodox Christians in the world are true Orthodox.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate. And I would also say that, unfortunately, those numbers are fluid all around. They're not very accurate. Whether you're talking about World Orthodox or True Orthodoxy. So
sure, I did want to press you on that a little bit though, because that seems to me to be a pretty big claim as somebody who's I've been in the church for several years now. I've been in I was discerning for some years before that, and my only exposure to True Orthodoxy has been on X.
Okay. Where are you? Can you give me an idea of your region?
I'm in the States. I'd rather not, get too.
Well, the only reason I ask is because in all major population centers where there are World Orthodox, there's usually a lot of True Orthodox. So if you're living in a major population center, they're around you. You just may not have noticed them.
Well, I mean, I don't know, man. I find that hard to believe. I'm just being honest with you.
What am I supposed to do with that?
Well, you did say that you could substantiate the 10 to 15% claim on Thursday. Are you able to substantiate that?
Yeah. Okay. So if we're gonna go by the substantiation, that's fair. I remember you asking, and that is a fair question. In the case of the Church of Greece, there was a 1950. There was a 1950 census that was done where I believe they said that there were 1 million True Orthodox, those who were affiliated with the old calendarists. At that time, Greece was 8 million. And so that actually comes out to roughly 12% of the population since then. And this is, again, anecdotal, but True Orthodox tend to have larger families than World Orthodox do. So that is why the 10 to 15% is absolutely accurate in Greece. There are other anecdotal stories that I can give you where, for example, even like Metropolitan Hilarion Alfiev mentioned in an interview that when he went to Athens to meet the Archbishop of Athens, his Uber driver tried to take him to the True Orthodox bishop. The point I'm trying to make is that there are actually a good number of True Orthodox, and when I went to Greece, I saw that with my own eyes. So the problem is this, Stacky, is that I have lots of evidences that there are lots and lots and lots and lots of True Orthodox based on experience, and you can wave them off. But really, the only thing I can respond with is that you'd have to go see for yourself. Now, granted, you could go see for yourself and then say otherwise. I don't know, but that's on you and your conscience, man. Like,
just to be clear, I did, after we had that conversation, I did look online. I cannot for the life of me find any True Orthodox mission or parish or church or anything in my entire state.
That's possible. There are a number of states that don't have True Orthodox mission.
Sure, and the part of the conversation that you and I had was, I looked at that map that you sent me, and I randomly looked at 3 of them, and 2 of the churches that were on there just do not exist.
You see, I've heard this already. One of you originally said 3 of the churches did not exist. I went and found the physical evidence and street address of those churches and said it would be wasting my time to do the other 2. Now, if you haven't bothered to do the research for the other 2, that does not mean 2 don't exist. It simply means that I haven't done the research for them for you.
Well, no, but I'm telling you that I did do the research. I did.
Well,
one of them on the
first one, because 1 out of 3 you missed.
Maybe I'll grant you that, right? But I did do a lot more in-depth research after you had pointed out the other one, but I'm looking on Google Maps, on Street View, I'm searching. I mean, there's nothing. And you're telling people to go.
Do you want me to do it again?
Sure. Let's look up the one St. Clair
let's
Orthodox Church in Morning Glory, Texas, I believe.
Give me a second. Hold on.
While you do that, Father, I want to let Neurojack. He had connection issues. I want to let him back on real quick because he wanted to read a scripture verse, I believe, for us, and so
no problem.
I'm gonna let him do that while you're searching this up.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead, Neurojack.
Yeah, thank you for having me up. Again, I have a very
welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a very brief couple excerpts I want to read, and then a brief statement, if you don't mind. So,
go ahead.
Yeah. So the two quotes I want to read. First one's from Paul, and it reads, "Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth." Oh, sorry. This is actually Jesus. I'll read this one first. It says, Jesus said, "Do not think that I've come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a person's enemies will be of his own household." And also want to read this quote from Paul from the Corinthians. "But I, brothers, could not address you as spiritual people, but as people of the flesh, as infants in Christ. I fed you milk, not solid food, for you are not ready for it. And even now you are not ready, for you are still of the flesh. For while there is jealousy and strife among you, are you not the flesh and behaving only in a human way?" So I read that because what I'm going to say is, kind of just broadly for Christians in general, because I'm not a part of any church per se, but, certainly the history of the church and human history has been one of the,
I lost my audio.
for lack of a better term, pagan or
hold on. I hear you, Father.
Yeah, I heard him as well. But basically, I would say that the history of the church, as well as of human history, has been one of the occult and demonic, presence trying to subvert humans and God's word and the religion of Christ. So, you could see this in Trotsky or Gramsci, or you could see it in the Gnostics or Judaism, which is a major heresy, or Chabad Lubavitch, or all these other things. And would it be any surprise that the effort of, the devil would be to get as close to the truth as possible to lead Jesus's flock astray? And, I think that we have to be very vigilant, obviously. And I think the devil is going to revel in our squabbles amongst each other over the wrong things. And I just find it's, the behavior of certain, parties, I'll say, and they know who they are, but they are fueling the fire, right? And I think that they're wanting.
Is my audio messed up, or is just nobody talking?
Yeah. So I think so. Anyway, I just wanted to say that people have to look into their history, and they have to understand that the occult has infiltrated much of what we call "quote unquote" Christianity today, and they're using the state as well as technology, as well as fake churches and a lot of intelligence agencies to lead us all astray. And I think that it would behoove us to be very aware of that and stop pretending to not be interested in that side of it. And I think, like, for me, that's why I appreciate what Father Sweden and Boniface and many others are doing, is because they're kind of alluding to the fact that the occult has been trying to lead Christians astray for thousands of years, and it should be no surprise that they're continuing to do this to this day. So,
yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you for coming on, Jack. Stacky, are you back with audio? Stacky, can you hear me? Are you back with audio? All right. While he's working on audio, Father Joseph, maybe just hold that link that you found until he comes back. I did want to bring up Julian. Julian is an EO, and he's got some questions that he'd like to ask. Julian, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you okay.
All right. Guys, I need to use the restroom. So, Julian, Father Joseph, I'm going to let you guys go at it for a minute. I will be back very shortly.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm actually just an inquirer, not EO. I haven't been received in the church. I wrote down a few questions here, and just if they might be a little antagonistic, but I'm just trying to kind of discern whatever, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
So, at what point does your method of fighting ecumenism and modernity stabilize into the creed's one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church?
I don't believe that we see stability in one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church as aspirational. As far as I'm concerned, I've been part of the church all my life as an Orthodox. I'm currently part of the church. I am under a true bishop, which is under a true synod. There are true synods throughout the world. There are true Orthodox throughout the world. And so I do not see a to be coming that is necessary, if that makes sense. So we have everything.
You're basically already there. You're not moving toward it.
May I jump in, Father?
Sure.
I would say that World Orthodoxy has the burden of proof to say why they engaged in ecumenism and modernism, because the church was the church up until the 20th century. We didn't really have new calendars and old calendars, did we? Right? We didn't have World Orthodox and True Orthodox. It was just Orthodox. So there was a group of people that engaged in ecumenism and modernism, later on Sergianism, and kept drifting further away from the church. So I would say the burden lies on them to say, why did you engage? Why didn't you keep the Orthodox confession of faith?
Okay. That kind of goes into my second question. So whenever you guys effectively separated from World Orthodoxy,
we believe they separated from us, but that's
right.
beside the point.
Yeah. You ended up having to set up basically you had mentioned it earlier, a parallel.
Can you set up a parallel jurisdiction if World Orthodoxy left Orthodoxy? That doesn't make sense.
Okay, so but you
that's a false presumption.
Okay. Now, but you left the whole church. Like you didn't single out any specific jurisdictions that were going wrong. Like you left everybody.
Well, you can't leave
his
the
history's
whole
a little
church.
the history's a little messy. So there was the whole church.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was Orthodox, right? So then innovation crept in, right? Ecumenism was never part of the church.
Yeah, I think I should clarify because he is an inquirer.
Yeah, I know.
Orthodoxy operates locally, which means that you're never dealing with the whole church except at the top hierarchical level. You're dealing with your local parish and your local bishop.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why you wouldn't deal with when people say you went into schism from the whole church. I refuse to say you schismed as a verb because that's stupid and invented by people like J. Dyer. The point is that you can go into schism from your local church, your local bishop. But if you go under a true bishop that happens to be part of the local church, you're still in communion with the church. You haven't left anything, if that makes sense.
Right, but I guess what I'm trying to, and forgive my phrasing, I don't know the correct phrasing, but you guys effectively broke communion with all of the world jurisdictions, right? So
that's not a realistic picture of what happened. So why would I admit that?
I guess we need to frame it properly. Who innovated?
Well, I mean, according to you guys, the World Orthodoxy does, but did all the jurisdictions innovate, or was there only?
We never accused them all of doing it at once. And if you asked me, I would have told you.
Yeah, they did it piecemeal over time.
It was a piecemeal thing that happened in different countries, and there were resistances that happened. For example, when the True Orthodox Church of Greece formed in resistance to the new calendarists, there were no Romanian new calendarists yet. That happened 5 years later. When the Bulgarian True Orthodox formed, that was 20 years later because it wasn't changed for 20 years.
Yeah, didn't Antioch drag their feet as well?
Yeah, they changed in 1943. So the whole point is that this is not what you've been given to imply that we left all of the Orthodox, etc., like we stormed off and took our little bag. None of that is real history. None of it's real. You have to study.
That's the state we're in today, though, right? Like you don't have any, there's no jurisdictions that you would be able to commune with at all.
I literally said I can commune with churches all over the world, and
But
somehow people then turn
true.
around
So-
and they're like,
Only true.
So, I think to give you perspective, like
true
in,
Orthodox church.
"Well, I can't go to the Vatican and receive in a true Orthodox
Yeah.
church there."
no, I see what he's saying. So over time, there's attempts at reconciliation, and because of geopolitics, active persecution of people that remained on the old calendar, even though the old calendar wasn't really the issue. It was keeping the faith that they had practiced for the past 2,000 years, right? But because they weren't going along with the state new calendar church, for instance, in Greece, they were being actively persecuted. They actually killed priests. They dragged them out. They poured over the chalice. They shaved off beards. They imprisoned priests and bishops and monastics and laymen. They actually killed a pregnant woman who's considered a saint with a true Orthodox. I think Father mentioned her earlier, St. Catherine.
Yeah, St. Catherine Aroudus. Yeah.
So you can't really, you have to kind of combine the history along with the innovations and everything. You kind of have to all wrap it all together. If you're trying to take one thing in isolation, you're not getting the full story of what happened. Does that make sense?
And I guess it shook out that like there weren't any redeemable World Orthodox jurisdictions that you guys would be able
I would
to
say
work
earlier on, I think they were trying to sort it out. I know there's plenty of saints that were trying to give them time, but then it became very evident at a certain point, depending on where you were in the world, that, I mean, I think it became very evident by 1965 when the mutual lifting of the anathemas happened, and they were just like, okay.
Yeah, once 1965 happened, things got really,
It's
really
kind of like
bad.
a point. It was like a point of no return.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will add that sometimes you'll find details in history that will help you understand the reality. Like people talk about St. Nikolai Velimirovich. He's a Serbian saint who was a professor at St. Vladimir's, at St. Tikhon's Seminary in Pennsylvania, which is now under the OCA. But at that time, when the true Orthodox needed support in Greece, he actually sent Chrism so that they could continue doing baptisms and stuff like that to Greece.
Yeah, you don't hear about that though.
You don't hear about that often, but the whole point is
because history is messy.
History is messy, and we're a part of it. And so the version of history you've heard, when they say things like they left, that's just a sanitized version of history.
Mm-hmm.
We were in Jerusalem until 1992.
Okay. Just to move on, I've got two more questions here.
Sure.
What is to stop someone within the church, your church, to basically do exactly what you did? Let's say they come up with a disagreement on some doctrinal issue. They think that you're becoming ecumenist for whatever reason.
Oh, there are people who have tried that. Like
And then they go off and split.
Great example is Gregory of Colorado. He's actually considered, like, by World Orthodox and Roman Catholics, because of the way he owns internet domains. A lot of them think he's the most authoritative true Orthodox, when in fact he's been basically excommunicated by all the true Orthodox all over the world.
Yeah, that's ecumenical, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if they do what you did, they're leaving.
Well, you're accusing us of doing something that we may or may not have done. Like, you see, you've got all these baked-in presuppositions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do favor the EO on this one a little bit.
Well,
I'm trying to be as nice.
It's evident in how you form your question. We understand.
But you understand that by forming your questions in the way you do, you are implicitly implying we are lying about our position. You understand that?
Yeah.
We're going to react to that.
I got you. I don't want to be.
All right. So what's your question?
Last question here. And this one's a little bit more personal because it plays into why I left Protestantism. I ended up deconstructing mostly because of the factionalization of it. Whenever I'm looking into Orthodoxy and I see your guys' situation versus World Orthodoxy and the possibility of further fractions or factions coming from you, why would I choose? Like, why would I go from living like a heathen you know,
Can I-
whenever I
can I-
deconstruct it to, you know, to joining
Can I answer
Orthodoxy.
that? If you don't mind me answering that, I'm going to try to be as fair as I can. In the first place, in deconstructing yourself, if you were living as a pious Protestant, I would probably not say you were living like a heathen. I could say that you were living wrongly, but not necessarily like a heathen. That's, I think, unfair. But the point but what I'm going to get to here is I've known many people who converted from Protestantism to true Orthodoxy. And the reason why is because they encountered world Orthodoxy. And once they encountered it, they found things like modernism, they found things like ecumenism, and things that didn't quite gel with the idea of being one holy Catholic and apostolic church. Now, the people, and I would say your argument, because you already kind of implied that schism is baked in. We've actually seen schisms go down in the past 30 years. They've actually reduced. Many of these churches have consolidated or been absorbed. That also happens.
Well, we were warned in scripture that we were going to have like schisms and heresies and wolves in sheep's clothing the whole time. So.
Yeah, but the whole point is that we've actually seen this change be somewhat positive. Now, the thing is, if you are assuming that the system as it must be, the Orthodox teaching as it must be, must by nature not allow for the possibility of decentralization, the possibility of resistance, if you will, what you're describing is papism. That's just papism with a different guy at the top.
I mean, if you're inquiring, what I would suggest is you really look into the history and how everything, like even the gory details of what happened over the past 100 years. Because before the past 100 years, for the most part, with a few schisms here and there, there was a consistent Orthodox confession of faith. I say the past 100 years is where everything's been truly tested. And we've had to, I mean, even saints that the world Orthodox recognize, like Saint Justin Popovich, right? He talked about the Pan heresy of ecumenism, right? So we're just being consistent with what the saints have said.
Right. So I personally haven't been able to do a whole lot of reading in the more modern stuff. I've been focusing a lot on like anti-Nicene writings.
Of course, yeah. Keep going through that.
I'm basically working my way up.
Which is the way you should. Yeah, that's the way you should do.
This is literally from the ante-Nicene period to the present day. Highly recommend.
Right. The only time I do get exposed to more modern stuff is never one of the lives of the saints of the day hit one of our like the modern saints. So that's about it.
Don't be too scandalized by the different councils and what happened around them, though, because it's messy.
Right. Well, that's about all I got. Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to leave it at that.
We'll keep you in our prayers. Okay.
Thank you, Julian, for coming on.
Yep.
Guys, I want to read a couple super chats made by Jim Bob. It says, Joseph, were the Arians in communion with true Orthodox? If no, why do you say the distinction began in the 60s?
No, the Arians were not in communion with the true Orthodox. The Arians tried to take over state. They tried to take over state offices, etc., and that's how they gained power. There were some Orthodox who ended up in partial communion with them, and then that actually led to other breaks from other Orthodox. And eventually, there were 4 to 5 factions, for example, in Antioch alone. As to why I say the distinction began in the 60s, I think you're talking about when I mentioned the invention of the term canonical Orthodox, and that was with the foundation of the Standing Conference of Orthodox Bishops in the Americas, which would eventually become the Standing Conference of Canonical Orthodox Bishops in the Americas. Completely invented. You can look up the history of that. Just look up SCOBA and the ACOB's history.
It's not language you really saw before the 20th century, to be honest.
Yeah, it's all new.
Yeah.
Cool. And then we have another super chat here. This is Father Joseph sent the link to Abbot Tryphon. And I believe this is what you were talking about with YP, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And And so here it says, 5 minute and 10-second mark on X. That's when he says they have apostolic.
He sent me a link. I don't know if you want to see it.
I mean, you can share the screen if you want, or people can just go check it out on your page.
I wish I would have been here when YP was here. I had some questions for him.
So if you want me to share it, I can.
Yeah, go ahead and share that. And then while you're sharing your screen, I've got Stacky with the map questions, as well as Austrian Orthodox. These guys were talking in the private chat, so I wanted to bring them back up at the same time. Let me know when you share that screen, and I'll go ahead and put it up here.
Hold on. Let me share it right now. So let me present, share screen, the Heavenly Banquet, share. Okay. All right. Let me know.
1 second. Okay. Yep. Gotcha.
And traditionalists. And I love them. And I do believe that they have apostolic succession and that they have a real Eucharist.
Hold on. Let's go back.
Many dear friends who are Roman Catholics and traditionalists. And I love them.
He's talking about trad Catholics.
And I
trad Catholics, yeah.
That they have apostolic succession and that they have a real Eucharist.
Well, that's problematic.
And that settles that.
Okay. So let me wrap my Protestant brain around this. So he is essentially saying that he's ecumenical with Rome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's obviously a problem for you. Okay, I understand.
Do you want to know why it's a problem?
Well, because Rome's not the one true church.
well, apostolic succession. Once you start preaching heresy and separate yourself from the church, you lose apostolic succession.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. Now, Stacky, are you here? Are you there, Stacky? You
Yes,
mind if we keep my screen for a second here, because I'm going to switch real quick.
Yeah.
Here, you actually here, if I may share this tab. You said here St. Clair Orthodox Chapel in Morning Glory, Texas, St. Nicholas Mission in Las Vegas. Oh,
you came back in. Yeah, Joseph, I can hear you now.
Yeah, okay. So I have here the three places that you mentioned.
Sure.
St. Clair.
To be clear, I cannot see this. I'm on my phone, so I'm just going. I'm taking
St. Clair Orthodox Chapel in Morning Glory, Texas, St. Nicholas Mission in Las Vegas, and Saints Peter and Paul Orthodox Mission in Tucson. Now, I already showed for you that St. Peter and Paul Orthodox Mission in Tucson really existed. I showed you their website. They did not have an active priest. For the Rocana website,
that's strange because they do have an active liturgical calendar on there.
They do, and they have visiting priests. I know. I saw the website. But the point is, getting to the other two, Nativity 2019 at St. Nicholas Mission in Las Vegas is here. There's a picture with a few laywomen and a visiting priest. They're not listed in the directory anymore because I guess that they were small and they closed down. But I will also add that the other place that you mentioned, the St. Clair Mission, is not actually on either map at all, and I looked throughout Texas.
So it's in Western Texas. It was certainly on the map that you sent me. It was in a town called Morning Glory.
Oh, okay. Here we go. So this is a St. Clair Orthodox Chapel. I just found it. Thank you.
Isn't there
there's an address there. It's a house chapel. There's a physical address, and there is an email. Does the physical address exist? I assume what I'm going to see is a house because it's a house chapel. But let's find out. So if we were to go to Google Maps and we type that in, now I assume you want to email first before going. But if I were to type this in, this is in fact an actual physical address.
No, but that is just somebody's house? I'm just trying to be clear.
It says that in the thing. It's a St. Clair Orthodox house chapel.
Okay,
Father.
I'll be honest here. So Austrian here was just explained to me in the back room that there was more information if you clicked on the dot there, I guess, which I wasn't aware of. But it does seem to paint a picture that isn't quite as clear as you might have them believe, right? I mean,
Father,
do you think that we deny house chapels? No, we've admitted that. I've admitted that. I've said it. My own house, my own chapel, which I have shown online, is a house chapel. So
sure.
the claim that I am in some way, shape, or form misrepresenting anything is completely
well, no, but
false.
I don't think that you've been able to substantiate it in the way that you claimed.
Stacky, stop it for a second, because you gave me 3 examples. I physically provided the example of one actual chapel, physically showed you another chapel that no longer is active, and finally showed you that the last one was a house chapel. I have substantiated every single one at length, and you are still saying I have not substantiated it because you want to live in a fantasy
No. Listen, I'm saying you. I don't think for me anyway. You've substantiated the 10 to 15% claim. I mean, I'll grant you that there's that house chapel.
Well,
the one in Vegas that's on the map that no longer exists. I guess
that is a whole different argument.
There is a parish. There is a parish in Las Vegas because there's a wonder working icon there.
Yes, but the parish isn't active anymore because the priest, I think, is very ill, and so it's not listed.
Well, do they have reader services still, though?
I don't know.
I can't hear Stacky, but I have been in December. I was at the parish in Las Vegas.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I thought they were.
So is it a different parish, or is it a or is it the parish that you said is closed?
But every once in a while, my priest actually goes down there and serves at that parish in the house. It's actually a beautiful little parish, and that's where the Holy Mercy streaming icon of Saint Nicholas is.
That's exactly the one I'm thinking of. Thank you.
Wow.
So then what was this thing a minute ago where you told me that it closed?
I said I think they were closed because I had old pictures up, but I didn't see them listed in the directory.
Right, fair.
Stocky, can you hear the other gentleman on here?
I'm not.
They're definitely
quite sure who I can hear.
Yeah, you hear Sidonius just explain that in December he was there to see the miracle working icon that's at that chapel.
All right.
And there's a visiting priest.
Fair. And I don't mean to be combative at all. I just, it seemed spurious. No, I'm not.
It's okay, buddy.
I'm not. I mean, really, that was my only question, and it just seemed. It seemed to me that there was a lot being made in terms of like, the Eastern Orthodox don't want Joseph. I don't want to mispronounce.
We don't
Just don't mess with our mobile home in Florida.
Yeah, exactly. Leave our 5 trailer parishioners alone. So
if I'm ever in Morning, Texas, I'll go to that house. But my contention was that it seems to me that there was a whole lot being made of like the Eastern Orthodox don't want the true Orthodox to be spoken about or be on
the world
streams
Orthodox don't want the true. They don't.
Well, allow me to finish my point, please. When in reality, in my experience anyway, if I went to my parish and asked 10 people what the true Orthodox were, I'd be willing to bet 10 out of 10 wouldn't have ever heard of you.
I would be willing to take that bet also.
So it
doesn't prove anything.
So this is just my experience, man.
That's fine.
Orthodox churches. I don't know.
Do you think maybe that has something to do with censoring books and like removing?
Are you trying to say World Orthodox outnumber True Orthodox in America?
Yeah, because none of us have denied that.
No.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would. I don't think anybody.
So then, what exactly is your?
So what's your point?
No, I came on because you said that you would be able to substantiate the 10 to 15% claim, which I'm still not convinced of.
And if I point out to you, are
you talking worldwide or United States?
We're talking worldwide. United States, I think.
Oh, that's easy. You could just go to Greece.
I tried saying that, and I tried saying go to
and Romania.
What is in the United States? Is there a difference?
Yeah, we're minuscule.
We're minuscule.
Light in the United States are actually minuscule. Yeah. Outside of the YouTube bubble that Orthodoxy is bursting at the seams. I mean, we're just getting up to replacement population. So, if everyone is.
I travel.
Hold on one second, JC. Do you understand the point that I'm trying to make in terms of like this issue being made of like? They don't want to talk about true Orthodoxy when in reality it reminds me of that meme where it's like I think da 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 about you, and it's like, well, I don't really think about you at all.
But if you don't think about me at all, why would you be up here telling me?
Here's the thing.
Platform us.
Here's the thing. I actually do travel overseas to Orthodox countries, and there is a very large contingent of true Orthodox. There's like a lot of true Orthodox, like filled cathedrals and parish churches and everything.
You cut out a little bit. Are you saying in Greece?
I'm saying in Greece, in Romania, in Serbia, and Bulgaria, and oh goodness, there's actually quite a contingent in starting to show up in the United Kingdom now.
In Russia,
in Africa, in Southeast Asia. I mean, I've been all over the world, bro. There's a lot more all overseas than there are here in the States. I'll give you that. But if you're worried about 10 or 15%, yeah, that's going to be like 20 or 30%, or maybe even 40%.
I'm not worried about anything, to be honest with you. I mean, the Joseph, I don't want to mispronounce your last name, but to be frank, you're the only reason that I've even heard about true Orthodoxy. It's just seeing you.
Glory to God! I hope that I'm the reason that you.
We suck at evangelizing here in the States. I'll give you that.
I'm clearly not very good at converting you, because it seems like you're still arguing. But God willing, the Holy Spirit.
Well, no, like my Australian brother that spoke earlier, I'm content in my faith. To say
and I will say the same thing. Use the map and talk to real Orthodox people.
Listen, even if I went by your map, there's nobody anywhere near me, dude.
Nobody knows where you live, buddy, and you actually gave a huge relational database of where that could be.
Sure. Well, go ahead.
There's a lot in the Southwest.
There's a lot in the New York region, a lot in the in Florida. There's actually a good number in Florida now. Not there's a lot of in a lot of places.
He seems to be concentrating in the Southwest, though.
Yep. Stacky, I will say that from my perspective, it seems like what you're saying is, the TO guys don't live in your head rent free by any means. And so
you've definitely proven that by coming on the show.
In one sense, I will agree with the guys that there have been quite a few EOs who have gotten upset with me for even platforming these guys, which would suggest something opposite of what you're saying. But I do understand that they are smaller in number, but it would be the same as like a Roman Catholic saying Orthodoxy doesn't even live in our brains because we have like 1.5 billion of us, and there's like no Orthodox.
I hate playing the numbers game though, because it's like, well, if we're worried about how many World Orthodox there are, maybe we should worry about how many Roman Catholics are. Oh wait, no, there's more Muslims than Roman Catholics. Oh no.
Right. And that's what I'm saying, and I do think the discussion needs to be had regardless of how many numbers there are, especially from a Protestant point of view. The reason that I want to platform conversations like this is because Orthodoxy, unlike Protestantism, claims a one visible true church. And so when inside that claim, I as a Protestant see that there are still fractions, that piques my interest, because now I want to know, well, if they all claim to be the one true visible church, then I need to investigate these arguments. So it's much more interesting than if a bunch of Baptists and Lutherans were on here, because they're not claiming that same thing. So that's the reason this conversation is interesting, is because the claim itself makes the conversation interesting.
Yeah, but here's a good question though. Why are there Baptists? Why are there Lutherans? Why are there Methodists? I mean, if you want to get to the heart of why there's World Orthodoxy and True Orthodoxy,
the answers are very different.
It's in history. That's why.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, Stacky, that's how I see this. Wonder if you can still hear or not. I want to bring up.
He muted.
Oh, he muted.
Yeah.
Stacky, you're muted.
Come back to us, Stacky.
Stacky.
Can you guys?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I think my headset died, so I'm like on the actual phone now. I don't know if my audio is garbage.
Welcome back.
No, it sounds great, actually.
He lives.
You sound better.
Well, anyway, I did want to say.
Oh, no, you don't.
I didn't mean to be bad faith. I do have a lot of curiosity, in the sense that, like, in my day-to-day parish life, I haven't heard anything about True Orthodoxy. It's all been exposure through these circles on X or Twitter, whatever you call it. So
I may shock you here, but in our regular parish life, we don't talk about you either.
Fair. Sure.
Well, we did one time.
So I mean, I guess that's all I got.
I think we decided we have better coffee than they do.
I appreciate you coming up, Stacky. Thank you, man. Austrian Orthodoxy, did you have anything else to add, or were you just here to add to what Stacky was saying? You're on mute, brother. Okay, we'll move on.
He fell asleep.
What was this?
Andy.
Andy, yeah, Andy, you're back
Andy,
up, man.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, so it's just to give you a little bit of context here. It's sort of getting towards the end of the workday, so I had a bit of work to do to go away. Thinking about the earlier discussion and just a couple of things that came to mind. I think the normative way that the Orthodox Church has handled schism through history is not to split off into other groups, but those that disagree persevere within the. Yeah, I see the book there. I've seen it a few times.
You're absolutely wrong. Historically, you are completely wrong. They're making it up and lying to you about what happened. Read the book.
Well, I've read a lot of history. I've read a lot of the church fathers. I mean,
Can you tell me one church father that says to stay with a heretic?
I'll give you a hint.
So the argument I was going to make is during the Arian controversy, right? The majority of the church was Arian.
No, the majority of the church wasn't Arian. The majority of the official established church was Arian, but the church itself, the actual
the
church,
laity, yes.
Not the laity, even the hierarchy,
the remnant
from the established institutional church.
I think it's difficult to make unequivocal claims about something.
This is all historical stuff. This is literally
we've got to go based on the historical facts we have.
If you read the tripartite history, it clarifies exactly what happened and which parties were there. None of this is stuff we're making up.
Yeah, you just got to read.
Well, I don't believe it's controversial what I said either, right?
Well, what you said is wrong. It's not controversial. It's just wrong.
Okay. Well, all right. I will cede to your greater authority and knowledge. I'm certainly not an academic.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I would read the tripartite history is what I would say, and get this.
But anyway, that was one of the points I wanted to make, right? So, I'm sure this isn't something new that I'm going to bring up. I mean, I thought it was something perhaps I thought of myself, but doing a quick search, I know. The irony of what's happened with Rome lately with Sedevacantus and SSPX. I mean, obviously, Orthodox would make the accusation that, hey, you guys are just the same as those guys.
No. Orthodox wouldn't make that accusation. Ecumenist papists who think like papists would make that accusation. World Orthodox who sound like papists would make that accusation.
We don't
they don't understand. They don't know who Saint Maximus the Confessor is.
Yeah, I know you don't have Sedevacantus yourself. I'm just drawing a parallel.
Right, but it's a bad parallel
within the group, right?
But can I point out why it's a bad
parallel? Hold on, Father. What point are you trying to make, Andy?
Well, just that from certainly you want to label it as World Orthodoxy. I get that, right? I call it Holy Orthodoxy, the Eastern Orthodoxy.
Well, no, the reason I want to label it is because of the fact that what you're claiming doesn't make sense when you say history of the Orthodox Church.
I mean, blame Schmidt and not us.
Yeah, I'm not here to bicker over technicalities, right?
Okay.
I mean, I'm just trying to make a couple of points here, and then perhaps you can respond to those. But
go ahead.
From the view of the body, I guess, is that you guys schismed away, right?
I mean,
I know you don't like that term, right? The Greek
because it's not true. It's from
the
view of Orthodoxy Incorporated or SCOBA Inc. We could call it.
So, are you asking if World Orthodoxy thinks we schismed? Which is that we don't use as a verb anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Greek word is schism, right? It's not schism.
It's pronounced both ways in English.
Well,
this is so.
Well, I'm from the southern United States, so you're gonna have to deal with me.
Yeah, and I'm not Greek either, right? But
yeah,
I'm not here to be petty. Argue over technicalities.
I'm just trying to get your perspective. So keep going.
Yeah. Okay. The other point I want to make is, when we look at the Oriental Orthodox, right? The
Monophysites.
Monophysites, Oriental Orthodox, however you want to label them, right?
No, but they're not Orthodox because they abandoned the Fourth Ecumenical Council.
We could just move forward without bringing up these petty little things. Okay,
that's not petty. It's the Fourth Ecumenical Council.
Well, hold on, Father. I think he's trying to get to a point.
Yeah, if I can, I will get to the point that
please go ahead.
The very canons that those churches agreed to condemn them in their schism, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they don't agree to them. Yeah,
their apostolic succession, the way that they create their synods and their bishops, they go against them by their schism from the prior councils that they actually do agree with, right? So when they get to the Fourth Ecumenical Council, they establish, I think it's John, I can't think of John Baradaeus, right? And Jacob Baradaeus and John of something or other. Hang on, let me have a look.
Well, would you say historically they started out as a schism, but eventually, because they stuck onto their views, they fell completely into heresy?
I think I'm not that much of an expert in history to give you a call.
Well, it's a doctrinal issue, not a historical issue.
Yeah, they're heretics now, right?
They're not. Well, even though they were historically always considered heretics, in 1992, the Antiochian Patriarchate entered into an agreement with the Monophysites to claim that they were both sister churches and could extend. They could be used. They had protocols in place for mixed marriages, for concelebrations.
They meet together in the same synod.
They consider themselves part of the same church, even though historically, again, that 2,000-year history, the Monophysites were considered outside the church.
And we
I
still
think a lot of that's with the realities of living under Islamic oppression.
That has nothing to do with the question of truth. I feel I am part. Remember, I'm no offense. I am part Lebanese, and I understand and feel bad for all of the different groups that have to live under Islam. But that has nothing to do with the question of truth. So as I am ethnically part of that.
Wait, hold on, Father. Hold on. When did Islam start?
In the early 7th century.
But
I believe it started as a Christian heresy.
Okay.
When did the Fourth Ecumenical Council happen?
Yeah.
In the 8th century.
No, that was in the 5th century. It was in 431.
Yeah.
So they had already been separated from the church for 200 years before.
So Islam wasn't even a thing yet.
No, I was addressing that comment. Sorry, on Father Joseph's. He raised that the Antiochian Patriarch had come to some agreement with the who are you saying?
No, he's talking about the pastoral agreement with the Monophysites.
That's a very recent thing, right?
This is 1992.
The early 90s, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to. Living under Islam.
But my point is, you can't do that because of the fact that they're condemned by the Fourth Ecumenical Council.
Look, I don't disagree, right? I don't disagree at all. That doesn't change the realities of truth and falsehood. I also would not disagree that there is errors within the church, right?
The church has no error. It's those who fall into heresy that have the error. That's why it's called heresy.
So bishops, we have councils that are wrong outside of the.
We have robber councils, yes.
Yeah, exactly. This thing. I mean, you guys were talking about Bishop Kirill, right? I don't know a lot about him specifically, but based on the surface level things I see, then perhaps there's lots of issues with him too. Go on,
Andy. I genuinely mean this, and I'm not trying to shove you off, etc. But I feel like because of the nature of how YouTube argument works, how people talk online, when I suggested to you to take a look, go to my channel, go to any video, look in the description for the maps, look for a church nearby, and talk to real people, not the internet, because talking on the internet about it is also an easy way to engage your passions. You need to meet real local people that understand the issues of true Orthodoxy so you can see the truth for yourself.
Yeah, I don't disagree. But I also would sort of throw back at you, then why are you here on YouTube making these arguments?
I'm here on YouTube to make the argument.
You're going to argue against ecumenism, Why are you here on a Protestant channel?
Okay, well, here, let me put it to you this way. If I'm on YouTube,
there's the crux of the matter.
I'm on YouTube to talk about the truth of true Orthodoxy and to argue with people about that want to say that it is false. Now, you are new, you're an inquirer, you don't understand these issues, and if I'm being I didn't know, I might have confused you for someone else. The point is that it is clear, however, that on certain issues of history, you simply don't know what you're talking about. So instead of telling you, hey, you don't know what you're talking about, I'm telling you where you can get educated. Get this book, talk to local people, and get out of the, I don't know if you're in one of these ortho bro groups where they're all like chatting it up and pretending each other are an authority. Just get away from that. And that's what I'm telling you. That's honestly just personal advice. Now, if you want me to just continue with a chorus of your wrongs, I can do that, but I'd also like to help your soul.
And Andy, we will go to Protestant channels, we'll go to Catholic channels, we'll go to atheist channels, which I think we have, and we'll go to any channel to preach the truth of Christ. Would you?
Yeah, I think that's an admirable thing to do, right? But it isn't one of the core.
So why is it a criticism now?
Well, based on my limited understanding of one of your positions.
Other people told you that we were bad.
No, not other people.
Are you using critical analysis to make your own decision?
Well, exactly. The irony of being on a non-true Orthodox channel accusing the Orthodox of ecumenism. You know,
that if our channel's been deplatformed, and if we have constantly been deplatformed by World Orthodox, I'm not going to grant you that these people are Orthodox when they oftentimes are ecumenist. Then why would you be upset?
I don't think you understand what ecumenism is.
I'm not upset. I'm just responding to some of the things I've heard you raise. I'm not at all upset.
I think Sean Sidonius just said it best when he said Father Joseph is on YouTube with Protestants. Your bishops are praying with heretics. That's a big difference.
Yep.
And you should keep that in mind.
I think you need to learn what ecumenism is.
And I think once you learn what ecumenism is, learn what the canons say about people who pray with heretics. I'm telling you, your experience of Orthodoxy is more skewed than you realize, and I understand why.
The Orthodoxy is in the local church, right? I mean, I agreed with you that we have bishops, we've had patriarchs that have erred, things like that. I mean, I think it's a little bit of a broad brush to kind of wave to say that.
Well, we've had synods.
My experience. Sorry?
We've had synods majority of the time. Patriarchs are kind of a new thing, and the consolidation to the main primate of the synod is a very, very new thing. Go ahead, Father.
You know what an Old Testament example of ecumenism is? Solomon courting the idols and of all the other nations, and making a mess of the end of his life.
Didn't work out so well.
So that's a good physical example of why you need to avoid ecumenism. You're actually, it's spiritual adultery. That's what ecumenism is. People leave their first love of God and they go after other religions, other idols, and their hearts have gone astray. That's ecumenism.
Well, John, thank you for having me on here. I gotta go to bed.
Yeah, I didn't even realize how late it's gotten. So
we better wrap it up. I wanted to leave you guys with this last super chat. Share this with these broke boys schismatics. So with that, we will end our evening. I appreciate you all coming on. Thank you to everybody in the chat who joined. Thank you to those who dropped super chats. And I hope that at the very least, this conversation has been a good look into the difference between true Orthodoxy and world Orthodoxy. We'll see you guys next time.
John, thank you for having us on. We really appreciate it.
We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Bye.